Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everybody. However you happen to be watching or listening to this, I want to welcome you to another episode of the Gaming Circle podcast. I've been told that I should start naming, calling out the names of the episode. So this episode is called Phase 2, and you'll know why for obvious reasons.
Well, before we get started, I just would like to take my hat off to you,
no,
sir,
no,
for this
stop.
amazing
I was
Sonic
setting somebody up.
gameplay.
I was setting somebody up,
Sir,
and you're letting
thank
it
you
go.
so
No,
much. I
stop.
appreciate this. You do not know what this does for my
And
soul.
that, of course, is the voice of my man, the man who's out here, literally being the one-man Sonic band, Mr. Everborn Developer. How you going today, sir?
I'm doing very well, man. This is good. You know what? I might have to play this again, man.
So just so you know, and for the audio listeners, we are now watching some footage of Sonic Generations, and I put this up because Mr. Joanna Dark was sitting there throwing some Sonic slander in the chat early on, and I said I had something for him.
This is great.
So welcome.
God.
Oh,
every
yes.
time I see this game.
And of course, we have many guests today. We have awesome guests with us. So before we even get started and everywhere, all the conversations we're going to have, let us introduce some of those guests. First and foremost, Mr. One Bad Mutha from Xbox era. How you doing, good sir? You don't even need an introduction. How you doing? It's been a while. How you been, brother?
I've been good, man. It's been great. It's great to get caught up with you and Everborn. I wish it was a little bit later. This is usually when I'll be sleeping on Saturday.
Man.
So.
I know. And we appreciate you for sacrificing for us.
Oh man, but it's been it's always fun talking to you guys. Mr. We'll to talk about like how soon our chance to get caught up and how soon Microsoft will get to buying Sega, right?
Yes.
You know it's gonna happen. You know that conversation will get there. Come on.
By the way,
that's why I got up. Yeah.
I have fresh ammo for my conspiracy theory about.
Oh, there's a conspiracy theory. Oh,
never!
I am surprised.
Everborn in a conspiracy theory?
Really?
Like,
Who
No. I'm gonna thread a needle, and people are gonna be on my page. But we'll see.
We shall see. But you know what? Before we get there, folks, we of course we have One Bad Mutha in the house, so we're going to have some very interesting, gaming news and gaming industry talk. We're talking about the various ABK deal twists and turns and whatnot, and of course we're talking Halo. One of the biggest fans of Halo, Mr. You Had Me at Halo himself. But of course, if we're talking Halo, and this show, you've seen this a few times now. If we're talking Halo, we must always bring on board our lore master himself, Mr. Pixelbit G.
Whoa,
welcome,
it's not
sir.
Pixelbit G. It is Darth PBG right now.
Forgive me.
PBG right now.
Forgive me, Darth.
I am about Halo.
How are you doing this morning, sir?
Also, I do want to add that we did not only bring you on, Pixel, for the Halo talk. I think it's a little disrespectful to your knowledge of the
no.
industry.
Stop that.
To say we only
we like his smatter. He has the smattering of Halo knowledge, which we also appreciate. But of course, we're here to have industry talk, and it's good to have all voices here.
I'm a one-trick pony. It's all right. It's no good.
Stop that.
Pun intended.
Indeed. So,
I got it now.
So, you get it? So let's start this thing off as we always do with some games we've been playing. Now, of course, as you see on the screen, this is actually my daughter's gameplay. Believe it or not, she is now on the Sonic train. So yes, that's true. The indoctrination has begun there, Everborn. Sorry. Yes, he's doing one of those Dr. Evil laughs right now. Yeah, ever since the first movie, she's been down and she totally wants to watch it. I haven't actually showed her the trailer to the new Sonic Frontiers game. We shall see what she thinks of that. But yeah, this is her gameplay footage. So yes, I've been playing a bit of this. I've been playing some Cowabunga collection. I kind of want to talk to you guys a bit about the Cowabunga collection because there's some interesting things going on here. And I did speak to you a little bit, Mr. Everborn, about this a little earlier. By the way, has anybody tried it out? OBM, Pixel,
yeah.
have you played
it? Bought it day one. I had to buy it day one. It's got a lot of memories.
It's a museum,
in there.
basically.
Yeah,
it's a
basically
museum.
That's what it is. I haven't explored the whole thing though. I played a few of the arcade games, and they just let you keep going, right? You can keep dying and keep going. So, I'm not getting the challenge out of those, but I am looking forward to going back and playing that NES game that we finally conquered as kids because you had no choice but to, because you didn't get a lot of, you didn't have Game Pass back then. You got one game for your birthday and one for your Christmas, if that's everything you wanted, and and you may do with that. So we played the hell out of that game.
OBM, you know what it was for me? My birthday's in December, so it was one for both.
Same.
Me too.
It was either get a job.
December kids over here. What's going on?
Right. It was either get a job or get one game a year.
Huh? You'd get the remote control car for your birthday and the batteries as the Christmas present. It was just sad,
That's why we got jobs as fast as we could, or we started hustling. I was out there washing dishes, like getting paid under the table. I remember my first check. I went to Perry Drugs to get a bag of Skittles and some Funyuns, and then I walked up to the store and bought a second. No, what was it? No, that was the NES. I was NES back then. Man, I'm old. NES video game. So that was my first paycheck. That's what I did.
I think everybody on this panel remembers everything you're describing right now. So stop
I was
describing yourself as old.
Bags at ShopRite for tips.
There you
go. That's how I started buying my first games.
Yeah.
So yes. So Mr. Everborn, let's get back to this game specifically.
I just want to point out, we've been talking on the phone all week, and while I'm playing, Turtles and As Dusk Falls, you've been playing Sonic this whole week.
No, I haven't played Sonic this whole week. I specifically chose this footage because I know some people are going to get triggered, and I appreciate that. But no, I've been playing. Actually, I played the Cowabunga collection, and I've been playing this, of course, and I've been playing a few different things, small little platform, almost retro style games.
Let me ask you a question about the Cowabunga collection, because I didn't get it yet because I'm still working my way through sipping Shredder's Revenge like a fine wine.
Like a fine wine, yes, indeed, yes.
Would you recommend the Cowabunga collection on the Steam Deck? Because I'm not going to play it on PC, but on the Steam Deck specifically, or on Xbox?
Believe it or not, the Cowabunga collection is best played handheld form, in my humble opinion. It feels best because
this is what I'm thinking.
Most of the games are very 4:3 aspect ratio focused. You can change that, but then it loses the thread a little bit. You know what I mean? And they have like scan line options that actually look pretty decent. The LCD and this and that and the other thing. The thing that makes it a little bit surprising for me is, after now playing both the Cowabunga collection now and of course Shredder's Revenge before it, I kind of feel like Konami kind of lost out in the deal. They should have been first. The Cowabunga collection should have been out before Shredder's Revenge. It's because, look, if you know these games, you love these games, you will appreciate this, right? Like, you will appreciate this because, like I said, it's basically the museum. In addition to all the games, you're looking at like comic covers, you're looking at the box art for all the games, even the booklets. They've scanned each individually. They've lots of cool little Easter eggs here and there. So it's really awesome if you remember that time. Commercials and things, ads, just very, very various interesting TMNT, tidbits. You can switch from the Japanese to the English version, the the US version. A lot of interesting ads there. But after playing the Shredder's Revenge, it's like you've already experienced that nostalgia, plus the modern aesthetics have already been added in the form of Shredder's Revenge. So you've gotten the best of both worlds already. So it looks the best it possibly can in Shredder's Revenge. And it speaks to that nostalgia of the past because that's what they chose to do. So after you do that, and then you go back to Cowabunga collection, you're kind of like anticlimactic. You know what I'm saying? I feel like maybe the Cowabunga collection should have also included Shredder's Revenge, like at the end or something. Like, hey, this is where we started, and this is the culmination of it. You know what I'm saying? So it's kind of a little bit lackluster in that respect. You know what I mean? And of course, I'm a very single player focused guy, and I hear that the multiplayer, by and large, is kind of broken. many of the multiplayer things aren't working right since launch. So all that spells kind of disaster for it.
Here's the thing, and just because, as you guys know, I'm working on the beat 'em up right now.
Yes, sir.
I have been keenly aware of all the little things that Shredder's Revenge is doing, and it's a really complex game, even though it seems like you're just pressing one button. And you can really see how it holds up, how the other ones holds up, and how much work they put into Shredder's Revenge. So I know that it could be a struggle to go back to TMNT and some of the arcade games and things like that.
It really lets you appreciate what Shredder's Revenge has accomplished after you play like the Cowabunga collection, and not to take anything away from that, it's a great bunch of games. I haven't played them all, great bunch of games. And besides, if those who know me know that I'm a retro gamer through and through. So these games aren't classic to me because they're literally in the rotation every time I get a chance to anyway. They're on my phone, they're on various retro consoles and stuff. I'm always playing some variation of these games. So it's great to be able to officially have one collection that has them on there and you can just buy it, and it's awesome. So I had to do it. But yeah, I kind of feel like it should have came out in the opposite order, and it would have been more of it would have gotten more positive press that way, right? Because Shredder's Revenge kind of took all the energy out of the room for it, I suspect.
Yeah, which was really good. I really enjoyed that one. I beat that multiple times already, but yeah.
But at the end of the day, if you have any love for the TMNT franchise at all, like buying the Cowabunga collection, you won't regret it. Like I said, it is a virtual museum. You will love it. You'll be able to introduce it to younger people. It's still great. So if you haven't played them, I'm talking the arcade ones, Genesis versions, NES versions. They're all in there. It's pretty cool. So besides that, all right, Mr. Everborn Saga, what have you been playing this week? You still been more on the same? Are you still like plugging away at Streets of Rage 4 or?
Yes, Streets of Rage 4.
Another really good game.
Shredder's Revenge, and I do one chapter every couple of days of As Dusk Falls.
You're still going?
Wow. I'm still going. No, but you got to understand, like actually the game that I'm playing the most right now is actually the Everborn Redlands game, because that's what I'm working on, and then going back and forth to Streets of Rage 4 and Shredder's Revenge to kind of see if I can match some of those mechanics while still adding our own flavor. So a lot of what I'm doing right now is kind of research, and it's not really like gaming to complete it. And that's why it's kind of taking me so long to complete Shredder's Revenge, just because I'm really playing it for the mechanics to understand.
Yeah, it's more informative research than anything else. Understood. Okay.
But so, I do blame Xbox for not having any games in 2022.
We'll get into.
Oh wait, hold on. I lied to you.
Oh,
I am right now playing a game called Islets.
Oh yeah. You were saying that yesterday, the last time to us. Yeah,
it's a Metroidvania in the vein of Hollow Knight-ish, using a lot of very interesting and familiar mechanics. And I highly recommend it. It's a really well put together game, and if you're waiting for Silk Song to come out, this will scratch that itch. It has these sort of little RPG elements in terms of upgrading your character and its combat and things like that. It again is a Metroidvania that promotes going back and forth as you get new abilities and things like that. So that is another game that, if it's not on your radar, it should be. I'm running it on the Steam Deck. I don't know how good it is on the battery, because I'm mostly.
Well, I suspect based on the art style and the way the game seems to perform, from what I can tell, it'll sip it pretty well. Like I suspect if you turn it down, you'll get like maximum battery life on a game like that, because very like hand-drawn art style games seem to fare very well on Steam Deck usually.
Yeah, I just know some of the assets that they're using are not very performant.
Are not very friendly. Okay,
not very friendly to mobile devices. Let's just say that.
Okay.
And you know why I'm saying that. Okay.
Yes, I know. But you know what? Okay, let us move on. OBM, sir. Have there been any games that have been keeping you interested this past week? Anything new? Anything you can talk about or can't talk about? Anything going on?
Plenty of that I've been. This has been like the sample week. This has been the week I go up to the Game Pass buffet and download like 5 different things. And,
yes.
We'll see.
How's the buffet been treating you? Yeah, I've been loving Midnight Fight Express. By the way, that's on the buffet still.
I did try that as well. I finished up the Doom DLC.
Cool.
The Doom Eternal DLC last week, and so I needed something a little bit more chill. I don't know if anybody here has played it. It is very sweaty, so I'm kind of been looking for something to sit back with this week. So I did try out the Immortality. Started playing that.
How is that?
I still don't know what's going on, but I'm intrigued. So I'm really intrigued. I probably put in an hour of that so far.
Is it just the review scores alone that's making you go, I got to try this out? Because it just seems to be glowing everywhere you look. Like, I don't get it.
People keep. Well, here's the thing. I want to try to experience this. People keep saying, don't ask too many questions. Don't read anything.
Okay.
Just go play it. And so when people say that, I'm like, okay, I need to find out for myself. It's not it's not a long game. Okay. I hear it's like 6 hours. So immediately I'm like, immediately you're going to be just like, okay, what
footage investigatory stuff, right?
Yeah, it is. It takes a while, and I still don't really totally know what's going on yet, but it is intriguing, is what I'll say. So, looking forward to kind of
try it out myself.
Yeah, my suggestion for people, and this is just based on advice given to me, is don't spend time reading too much. Just jump in it and try to figure it out yourself. So that's what I'm doing.
Justin OBM is against reading.
Against reading.
Yeah, he said don't read anything about it. So you're you're against reading.
When you mute everyone, just mute him.
Somebody needs to mute him.
Yeah. That is Mike. Get him out of here.
I'm sure before the end of the show there'll be a way to like clip me and get me canceled. So I mean, we'll
you're
figure
fine.
it.
You're fine.
So the other thing I started playing though last night was the Ascent DLC because I played that. Yeah, I played that when it first came out. I liked the game, despite I know they had bugs and some balancing issues, but man, that game is fun, and it clicked again,
especially in co-op. It's awesome.
This is just me. I could never get into the twin stick nature of it. I don't know.
I love that.
That's the second time that Everborn put himself in position to be muted. That's the second time now.
Pixel, you are working on becoming a permanent part of the show, sir. This is amazing.
I brought you in for backup against slow-mo, and then there you go. Feeling this
traitor.
Oh man.
Everborn Judas over here.
Pixel Judas. You know what? But this is Darth Pixel, so I should have expected.
Yes, indeed, it is the Darth Pixel. This is a different version of him. We have to be careful.
It's like I almost feel like we should drop it after that. No, but I'm surprised, Everborn, you didn't like twin stick shooters, man. Like our generation, us older people, man.
I'm saying this one I didn't like.
This one,
I couldn't. I don't know. I just couldn't get like my aiming always really sucked in this, and I don't know if it's because I'm old now, but I just couldn't get it, and I felt like I was never really shooting at what I was supposed to be shooting at.
Fair.
I don't know. I don't know what it is. It could be me. Probably is me, but maybe. But I don't know. It's something about
that game always garnered so much respect and attention because, like, ever since that time when I remember you guys probably remember this story when somebody literally zoomed into all the assets and it was like, oh yeah, this is basically a first-person shooter that they pushed all the way back, and if you zoom all the way in, you can read the newspaper articles.
They're doing
they are so well detailed. It was just nuts,
Visually, I love the game. I can hear what you're saying, Everborn. The controls I think are a little slightly quirky. Eventually, you get used to figuring out what does and isn't going to register, how to use the cover and all that other stuff. So I think eventually it becomes second nature, but it's never perfect. It doesn't ever get to that point where it's like Robotron where you're just like, you're never going to get to that.
Well, I do want to be fair. I think for me, it felt just because of the perspective or whatever, I feel like it would have been better for me if I was using a mouse and keyboard. Now, I don't have this problem with Diablo when I play it because it's more, the way I play Diablo is more melee. So I can run up to someone, and even though I have to turn around, I can.
I mean, the Ascent does
them.
give you the option for mouse and keyboard. Maybe you want to give it a try. It might click for you at that point.
But then I'd have to play on PC.
You can also play Ascent more
Can't
melee
have that.
too. You can play Ascent as a melee character. You don't have to play it as a shooter.
True.
Oh, see, I didn't know that.
All melee.
They have well, I mean, I don't know if One Bad Mutha is finished, but I played the crap out of that game.
Oh yeah.
The reason I did not play the DLC is because my son deleted my freaking save file.
Man.
Okay.
How did your son delete your save file?
I don't know. He got on
Went into the cloud and pulled it out?
I mean, he deleted it and then restarted the game. So the next time you start the game, you get your
Lord.
if you really delete it, you don't get your if you don't.
That's when you get one of those dad looks that takes a couple years off your life. Oh man.
Yeah.
Oh,
and I had like 30 hours that I had everything beat. I had only one mission wasn't beat, and I kept contacting developers like, yo, can y'all fix this mission? Like, I'm trying to get the rest of the
there was an unbeatable level in the beginning, right? That kind of broke the game a little bit.
That fixed. So I never went back since.
That's unfortunate. Maybe this is an opportunity to re-roll with a co-op. I hear most of the bugs are fixed now, and it supposedly runs better than ever. So yeah. But anyway, while we're at it, OBM, anything else to talk about as far as the games you've been playing?
I mean, there's just a bunch of them. I won't go through the whole list, but just everything like the Tinykin, Immortals. I've given all those a sample. There's a bunch of good stuff that I'll just tell people, jump on Game Pass lately. There's a lot of diversity and good games that just kind of hit, and I'm still just digging in on those.
Cool, very cool. How about you, Mr. Pixelbit G? What have you been playing? I know you've been playing some of that as well. Anything else you wish to discuss?
Yeah, so I've been playing. I finally beat the Cult of the Lamb. So,
woo! I haven't beaten that yet. Tell us how ultimately. What do you think of it?
It's a tasty game, man. Like, it's
right?
One of those games.
The ideas on display are amazing.
It just wraps you in this little wacky world and its little rituals and stuff, So
wacky is one word for it. Okay.
Yeah. I try to keep my son from seeing it. Like, Daddy, why is he trying to kiss you? Like, no, that's not.
That's not how it's going down.
No, sacrificing people, like it's a thing. So like, once you get
you too. So whenever I'm playing and my daughter wants to jump on my back so she can watch it, and I'm like, dear, I know it's cute, but you can't watch this.
Yeah, not for you, right? So. But there is the late part of the game is actually pretty good. There are still some serious bugs in the game, like for the some of the late items. So I'll probably revisit it after they do a major patch or something like that. But it's a solid game. So I finally knocked that out, and then
so many systems in that game. It's amazing.
Yeah, I mean, just the interactions with your followers, and trying to keep them happy. And then the food supply, the cooking,
all the poop cleaning. Get out of here with all of that.
You get your outhouses. I mean, it's it's crazy, right? At the point where I got if anybody in my camp dies, they become fertilizer for everybody else's food. It is what it is.
Okay? And that game is amazing.
It's just dark, you know what I'm saying? So that it's so good. I double dipped on it, right? So I played it on Game Pass, purchased it anyway, and then purchased it on my Steam Deck because it's one of those kind of games you kind of just need to have in your collection.
You need to have it always with you. Yes, it's a great game. Right? Absolutely.
Yeah. I bought that one on the Steam Deck.
Yeah, so I double dipped on this. Eventually Xbox will allow us to use our own games on the cloud service, and then I won't have to double dip as much. But in this case, why not? Right? It's cheap. So
Pixel brings up a great point. I need that to. I know that they're rolling out.
They've already announced it. It's coming.
I know they announced it, but I need them to roll it out because this is kind of ridiculous that I gotta buy these games on 2 platforms.
I need you to hurry up, sir.
What the hell, man?
Yeah, no, they need to expedite that part of it, right? So,
indeed.
Listen, right now, I'm telling you right now, I am going to buy Frontiers on Steam and on the Xbox.
Yeah,
right. And the real problem is, I could even stomach that, even though it's crazy.
No crossplay.
Right, it's no crossplay. So my progress is not gonna
yeah.
go through.
In some games that is hard to swallow, but in other games I take that as then you can roll different kinds of characters on different platforms. So I usually do that depending on the game, but I do hear you on that. The opportunity not to do that sucks. Some developers, some publishers, shout out to them, have been able to solve it. Like Ubisoft solves that problem beautifully.
Yeah, that's when you
like
have
their
an
Ubi Connect
account.
app lets you do all that stuff. It is interesting. But yeah, no, I definitely hear you on that.
So and besides from that, the other game that I've been playing is I am knee deep in Total War Warhammer 3 Immortal Empire.
Awesome.
That is my jam. I am giving my powers up to the ruinous forces. So right now, I have my ever chosen, not related to Everborn, just saying. And he's Archeon the Ever Chosen, right? So he is part of the Chaos Lords, right? And it's like the map is massive. So I've been playing this series since like probably like 19 years at this point, but
it's a long running series. Yeah,
it's a long running series. But we've been waiting for them to bring out part 3, Immortal Empires, for like 5 or 6 years. So it's been a long run, right? Where they've created 2 other games. They both had this kind of expanded Empires mode, and now you have the final mode where every empire is in this. I think I had posted some screenshots of it on Twitter, where it's like 50 armies, right? Main army class types or whatever. And each have their, hundreds of units, different amongst them with different strategies and stuff. So it's a really deep game, right? So I am deep in that. I just ran into the Vampire Lords, who I forgot are very powerful, because even at my level 50 character, I run into the main Vampire Lord, and he is tanking my army by himself, and it's glorious. You know what I'm saying? Like we won, but it was like, at what cost? So
and just so you understand who you're dealing with, this is a man who loves to play and beat Halo Infinite at its highest difficulty from jump. So yes, he plays his games.
It's the only way to play. Not every game, because I don't have time and I'm old. But some games they deserve to be played, at the highest level. So
indeed.
That's where I'm at.
I would just like to shout out to Kay Asante's kid, because they're pretty good at this.
She's great, thing. Right? She's great. I love it. Like I'm gonna record you playing this, because because
I'm like, I made more mistakes than this one.
She's great. She's absolutely great.
That's what's up.
Yes. I'm like, you do you, girl. I'm just gonna hit the record button. You're gonna help me for the week. It's all good. Absolutely. So yes, you know what? Let us move. Since we're talking about some games we're playing, let us move into some of the news stories. There's a lot to talk about, and I may not necessarily have every news thing that you guys want to talk about covered. If I miss something, if there's anything that pops up that you guys want to talk about, please, in the chat and on the panel, let me know. We'll find it. We'll bring it up. But in the short term, the real quick, before we get started, I thought I'd bring this up because this tends to happen a while, and now more and more, since there are more Steam Deck users out there, I think I maybe should highlight this more so people know that this is happening. There are lots of free games to be claimed this month, specifically this month, and this deal specifically happens to be for Amazon Prime. If you happen to be a Prime member already, I'm talking, look at some of these titles. We're talking, Assassin's Creed Origins and Shadows of Mordor.
Amazon Prime. I think we need an on the real minute at the end of the episode to talk about Rings of Power.
I am frauding because I have not seen it.
Wow.
I haven't seen it yet either.
I haven't seen it. I'm fraud because I kind of want to build up a couple episodes. They
started it with 2 episodes though.
They started with 2. Okay.
Yeah,
well, then,
by the way, they played those in movie theaters because the first 2 hours are like really like
the setup movie.
And the production value is like you can see the money on screen. Every shot, you're like, damn.
You can clown me for a little bit at the end because I have not seen it, but I will definitely catch up.
Weekend, so you are ahead.
See, there you go. You're ahead of the curve there.
All right, so we will talk about it next week when it's 3 episodes in. And
there you go.
Sounds good.
There you go. And I'll be caught up by then for sure. But yes, and folks in the chat.
But highly recommend everybody check it out in the chat.
Yep. Ooh. And I think we lost Pixel. No worries. He'll be back. His device is disconnected. Not a problem. But yes, while we get into it, again, thank you to everybody who's watching, everybody who's in the chat. I see you, Paul AFC. I see Lord Negatron. I see Mr. Joanna Dark. Shout out to the man, Gerald Mack. All y'all, we really appreciate you being here. If you haven't hit the like button yet, please consider doing so. For the newbies in the house, if you haven't thought about subscribing, please do so. I see folks in the chat having a good time. Yes, I was on Crossfire yesterday, and yes, it was a grand old time. If you haven't watched it, you got to go check it out. It wasn't even me. Oh, and we keep losing Pixel Phone, unfortunately. It wasn't even me and my glorious takes, which my takes are always glorious. But man, you just gotta go. You gotta come and listen to Brap. Just come and listen to Brap. It was amazing. I think you were in the chat there, right?
I did tune in for like a minute. It was entertaining.
It was glorious, absolutely glorious.
But what about the clown?
Man, argue with a lawyer. It's amazing.
That is sometimes. Yeah, never mind.
It was awesome. It was awesome. We had a great time. Everybody was a good sport about it. It was fun. He had some drinks before with his wife, so he had a good time. It was great. It was fun. So yeah, if you haven't checked it out, you should check it out. It was really awesome. But yes, let's get back into it. And Pixel will join us. So as soon as he does, I will plug him back in. But this is just more of a PSA. If you or you know somebody who happens, Paulie Baba says I'm lying. I killed him. No, I did not, sir. No, Paul AFC. I did not kill him. He did it to himself. Anyway. So yes, if you happen to have an Amazon Prime subscription, or you get packages, any of that, they tend you just put your subscription in. You go here. They tend to drop a bunch of games. Even if you're not a big PC head and you happen to have a Steam Deck or anything like that, these games are playable on there. So check it out. Every month they seem to drop lots of different things. So look at the man, Randall Thor 19. Friend of the show is on here. Welcome, good sir.
What's up, Rand?
Oh, that's right.
The thing is, I feel like I could still hold my own here, drunk. Just not against Hogue.
I just brought my popcorn. It was good. We were on Discord, so nobody saw me chewing. It was great. It was hilarious. I enjoyed myself. Thank you for being here, man. Good to see you, Rand. So okay, let's get Pixel back in here. So yes. I will, and for those in the chat, if you want, I will always be, posting more stuff, letting folks know what's available if you want to do so. If you follow me on Twitter, you know my Twitter handle, TKO Asante. Follow me on Twitter. Anytime anything new like this pops up, I'll let you know. You can basically get them for free. So I thought I'd just drop that in there real quick.
I want to say something real quick since Rand is here.
Please.
And he always gets at me for my conspiracy theories.
Oh, here we go.
I want to know what Rand thinks about this.
Now conspiracy theory early on. Buckle up.
Theory and I know we're going to lead into this, so there's a little bit of cart before the horse, but hear me out here. You know how I said the delays of Redfall and Starfield are related to the acquisition of ABK because they didn't want to make a lot of big noise and they want to look like they're hurting and they really need this deal to the regulators, right? That's my big conspiracy theory that everybody thinks I'm crazy for. However, if you look at this CMA document where they point out using as reference Redfall and Starfield as to what Microsoft will do with Activision, if you are Microsoft's lawyer, you say, like Hogue said, this is not the pre-crime division, right? He doesn't even know what I'm gonna say. So the point is, right now,
well done.
Stuff as evidence as to what they're gonna do because Redfall and Starfield have not released. So you can't say we did this thing with these IPs if we didn't release them yet, and they're not released yet. And now that is an argument that they can bring into their negotiations with these regulators. So think about it. You tell me they didn't have that planned and know this was coming. These are very expensive.
All I need to see right now, Everborn, is you on cam with the question marks and the exclamation points all just flying around your head.
All right, you guys don't want to listen.
We need that.
As much as I was clowning his initial take when he first did it, it was all fun and games.
Until everything started coming exactly the way he keeps forecasting.
It was all fun and games until they canceled those. Well, not canceled, but withheld the other games. So and then had no other things to back it up. So I don't know.
So okay, we'll move on, but I will let OBM have the final word on this. Do you think in any world where Everborn has somewhat of a point, please, sir?
With this conspiracy theories, I never go Everborn conspiracy theory.
See? You guys just don't want it. When the deal closes and we start getting dates, I don't want to hear nothing from anybody.
Yeah, I don't. Here's the thing: if you Microsoft, the $2 trillion company, I hear a lot of, and it's not just from you, Everborn. I hear stuff, in a lot of places, a lot of conspiracies about how Microsoft is playing governments. Over getting this video game purchase done with the kind of the stipulations that they want to have done. I just don't. You're not going to risk everything. They are in good standing. They've worked 2 decades. They worked 2 decades to get themselves in good standing with governments, and now I remember I was told this by a former boss one time. When everybody was getting let go at a particular time, and everybody was on the edge of their seat, he basically told us all, you don't have to be faster than the bear, just the guy running next to you. So I think that Microsoft wants to stay ahead of Amazon, Google, all the other big tech companies. Right now, they are in good standing. They aren't going to play games, and I don't think they need to. I feel like and we'll get into it later, that I feel like the precedent is on their side, and if things went to court, they would be in a very good situation. It would hold things up, and I don't think really Sony is going to benefit if they go. I was hearing Jess talk about this yesterday, and I agree with him. It's let it go to court. Let's just pull everything out the closet, and especially if we can get to one of those countries that and
you know what,
public.
We will get into that fully a little bit later. But Everborn, I think you're hearing some repeat, because I think me and Mr. Boomstick basically bombarded him with that exact same talking point that you're talking about right now.
We'll see. By the way, I want to point out Lord Negatron's last comment. And I think this is why we need to get him on the show one of these days.
Oh, okay. Most def for sure. Oh, and of course, Mr. Game on Daily Gaz himself. He's just here to say Halo.
Oh shit! Here.
And yes. While he's here, let me also mention I will be on Game on Daily today. Which, get your popcorn ready, ladies and gentlemen, because it will be one barn burner of a Halo show. We shall see. I look forward to it. I'm actually looking forward to it today. But yes, before we get into a little bit of Halo talk here, let's quickly touch on this whole Tencent and Sony kind of dividing up as much of FromSoft as they can. We saw this happen early this week. Do we think this is cause for eyebrow raise? I thought that was kind of interesting. Either somebody would buy them or not, but it seems like they're grabbing as many scraps as they can. I'll start with you, One Bad Mother, and gentlemen, y'all feel free to chime in. What do you think?
At this point in time, I don't know that we have enough information to change what we think. If we think it's, obviously there's a bigger relationship between, Sony and, the parent company. But are they going to get something out of this? Are they going to get exclusives? I don't even. I don't know.
First thing I saw people talking about was, that means that means it'll be removed from Xboxes or something like it. It's causing exclusivities or whatever. I doubt that's the case.
Well, the thing is, and I think From Software wanted. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I think there was something out there already that they kind of wanted to do own some of their own IPs, right? Because right now, the ones that they're known for, the Dark Souls, the Bloodborne, the Sekiro, Elden Ring, they're all
various publisher, and I think Microsoft is even going to own a few of them, past historical ones, once the ABK deal inks.
Yeah, and they might have Sekiro. I think they might own that, but the biggest ones, the ones that have really hit, they don't own those right now. So I think that was one of the things they wanted, was some control over that. So again, I don't know. Anytime money's changing hands, and there's a deal made, a lot of times you're going to try to get multiple things out of it if you are a Sony. So maybe they do get something out of it. Maybe they do. I wonder, a published game.
And that's just a genuine question on my part. I wonder, and Tencent, this is what they do, so it is what they do. You know, we know that they've been doing similar for a long time now, so it is what it is there. But I genuinely wonder what the benefit is that Sony gets from making a deal like this, considering the fact that it's not like you wouldn't have gotten their next outing or their next product anyway. It would always come to your platform. I always find it interesting when they make these moves, what they find is the benefit for them. You know what I mean? So
yeah, and if you're going to buy stock from software, is a good company.
Yeah, true.
You're probably not going to lose that money when when it's time.
It also protects from or Kodakawa from being acquired by someone else, because if you get together with Tencent, you guys basically have the lion's share to say, if this gets sold, we have to agree to it. Right, because they're together, they're the largest shareholders.
So are you saying that they did this so that Microsoft can't buy them or something?
I mean, it could be anybody. Could be Embracer.
Sure. I'm using that as an example, but it could be Embracer. Yeah, exactly.
Also, I do think that if any deals come up, you have to run it past them. So maybe they want to do a Game Pass deal. Maybe they want to do an exclusive with somebody else. Okay. You got to run that past Sony first and Tencent. So. It's a way of getting your foot in the door without having to have all the money you would need to acquire them, and you don't have to deal with any of the regulatory stuff. We're just
true. Yeah, absolutely. Okay, very interesting take. I hadn't thought of it in that way. That is absolutely true. So that does kind of give them a bit of security. Also, moving forward with From.
I wonder if you could, and I don't know how this works, but technically, couldn't you just like invest in small chunks over time till you're the majority shareholder, then kind of take it over and kind of skirt dealing with the regulatory approval?
Once you hit a certain threshold, they'll come after you.
Isn't that a hostile takeover though?
That would be hostile. Yeah, that's right.
Is it if you do it over a number of years?
You're not going to sneak
up. It's still hostile.
It's not like, oh my god, we sold them. They're 51%. Like,
didn't Vivendi try that? Vivendi tried that with Ubisoft. They just kind of kept sitting next to them closer and closer in the movie theater until Ubisoft had to get up and walk away. Like, come on.
At the end of the day, and Rand says it in the chat, like Kodakawa, I don't know if I'm saying that right. It's still the parent company, right? Absolutely. So I would still keep that in mind. They may. It doesn't mean they didn't agree to some sort of multiple. Each side's getting multiple things out of this, and it doesn't mean that Sony doesn't get something from software, but it doesn't. But it also doesn't mean that they are. It doesn't mean that they're going to be pulling, and they're definitely not going to pull off. They're not going to pull Bandai, Namco games off of Xbox, and I'm assuming they're going to get a pretty. They're going to back up the trucks for an Elden Ring 2. That's going to go everywhere, right? Like, that's not going to affect that kind of thing. So, well, I guess we'll have to wait and see.
Yeah, absolutely. Anyone else have any thoughts? Pixel, any thoughts from you on this purchase? I just find it super interesting because of the fact that you're already getting what you're getting. You could negotiate a like some kind of exclusivity, which you do frequently. So buying a little more beyond the financial incentives. I always find it interesting when they buy a small piece. What does it give you versus just not buying a piece? I always thought that was like, I would like to know more about that. Pixel, any thoughts?
I don't know. I mean, we haven't really seen much come from these scenarios where these companies buy a little bit into these other companies, right? Because Tencent's been doing it forever. Tencent has a decent percentage of Activision, right? How that worked out. Right, so
exactly. Well, for them it may work out pretty well when it's all said and done, right? Exactly, right? They may make a good chunk of Microsoft change from that one,
Right, but it didn't work out to them overtaking the company, right? So
true, absolutely.
Until I see them like one either Sony or Tencent by themselves take a 30% stake into the company, to me it looks like just an investment, and then I don't know if From Software is in a position where they need to really, do anything with anybody at this point. They have their most successful
they can
game
write their own ticket at this
because
point.
it was on every platform on Earth.
Yeah.
They sold more copies than ever, right? So
except for the
I don't know if
Abacus,
they want to go
aka
with
the Switch.
that. Yeah. Well, I mean, can it run it?
I mean, they could have done it. They could have done a cloud only version, but yes, I hear you.
Yeah, true. I was gonna say it barely runs on the current gen as is.
True, absolutely.
At least not smoothly, right? But
yeah.
So until I see them do more, it's just like, okay, it's just another investment. So I know, on Twitter they were losing their minds over it. Oh my God, I think Sony they own the whole company. Like, no, they don't. Relax, be easy. It's not that serious, right? So,
okay, so I think that buttoned that up pretty well. I was gonna bring up some other topics, but since we have two main topics that I feel will take the bulk of this time, I'm going to skirt around all of them.
One of these topics will take the bulk of the time.
I suspect, but I'm going to skirt around all of them until we get rid of all the small ones first, right? So we're going to get rid of all the small ones first real quick and go, how about this one? Microsoft confirms Game Pass.
I feel like this ties into one of the stories because I feel like the timing is very specious.
Okay, I hear you on
we can come back to that.
Okay, we'll come back to that. You're absolutely right. How about The Last of Us Part 1? First off,
you mean how they stole Ains's
yes,
tweet?
Yes. And now it's everywhere. It's everywhere.
So charge them more. This is what you're paying for. Forever physical, baby.
There we go. All right. I guess I dropped the story in just to give everyone a chance to gloat a little bit on the Charge Them More front. It's starting a movement. You know, I see the hashtag Charge Them More in places I've never seen before.
Good. Now I need
places that you don't even travel. I'm like, this is traveling, man.
You should have trademarked it. You know what I'm saying?
Not too late. I might have to fill out that application online.
You got to do a format trademark right now. Do something.
Yeah,
absolutely. But yes, so for those who aren't aware, real quick, came out. You know, those who love it. We've already all the virtual ink has already been spilled on all the Last of Us Part 1 stuff. But it shows up, and it's by and large really crappy packaging. And it's not just one person that reported it. Obviously, Ainsley Bowden from Season Gaming reported it. He was very obviously he has a pretty good following on Twitter, so a lot of people caught it. But when they caught it, then they started sending pictures, and it seems like everyone got a variation of this in their mail, which is very weird for a package that's being sold at $100. So yes, if you haven't gotten yourself a copy,
you know why this is happening. I'm going to tell you why.
Worth every penny.
Now, Trevor Noah talked about this a few years ago, and he was talking about it in relation to 45. What they're doing here is blatant and on purpose. You see, when you get those emails from like the African prince who says that he needs you to send him money so that he can do these things, the way they prime people is that they do things that are blatantly outrageous.
So I kind of feel like I need to mute his mic now and remind people that his host is also African. So let's just keep
hold on a minute. Wait, hold on. No, you're from Ghana, so let's just say Nigerian prince, right? That'll work for you, right? So the thing is, you have the African prince, and he says the most ridiculous thing, and if you don't see that it's obviously ridiculous, then he will keep going with the lie. And so now you're invested, right? So this is obviously ridiculous. They're gonna we're gonna charge you more. We're gonna charge you $100, and we're gonna send you a broken box, and you're still gonna pay us. You are
next time.
In the middle of
I'm gonna use a Jamaican stereotype, and I'm gonna start spitting patois over here, just for you.
Listen, man.
Give them the Jamaican scoop on that one.
I'm just saying. This is the long con, and you guys are all falling for it.
And it was so salty because while this obviously is a real issue and like what the hell's going on, I see some people, if you check the retweets, I see some people going, good, you get what you deserve. I'm like, come on, this is so
not Ains,
like, seriously,
but yes,
come on, people.
Everybody but Ains, I have no sympathy for.
Oh man. Anyway, so yes, needless to say, if you haven't checked it out, the game is out there. I suggest you get your digital copy because physical doesn't seem to be there.
By the way, I think that's a new T-shirt, the long con.
Oh boy.
With a
And then
PS
charge the
logo
more
on it.
behind it. The long con in the front, charge the more behind it. Okay. So all right. Before we get into the main, well, you know what? Let's talk Halo.
Oh boy.
Because I think the rest of these
here we
all
go.
kind of come together. Let's talk Halo first. Okay, so we are here to discuss the latest and greatest in the Halo saga, right? We've been here. We've talked about this on a couple occasions. You know, some days we were here to talk about, oh, the king is back. We on this show, you know, gladly and eagerly, you know, anointed him, like marking his return, right? Oh, the game is amazing. The campaign, we dug it. We had some issues, but here we are. We like what we like, right? I have been on record as saying I have played Halo MCC for years. After Grapple Shot, there's no going back, right? I just can't play Halo MCC anymore because it changed the game. It's more dynamic. It can't go back. You kind of feel like you're in the old school mode. It's difficult. But after a while, they keep, and by they I mean 343, seem to be catching bad press here and there based on either their failures or the perception of the Halo fans, what they want that maybe they're not getting on time, all of that. But long story short, we're basically where we are here, where people are basically disenfranchised with this franchise, right? We have some really big Halo fans in the audience, on the panel. Nobody has a good thing to say about Halo and or its developer, right? Let's catch up on the latest and greatest here. Now, I have a few different stories that basically sum it up. Yes, they've canceled split screen co-op, right? And for my part, and so that everyone knows exactly where I'm coming from with it, I'm a single player gamer by and large. I put a lot of hours into Halo multiplayer, more than I do most multiplayers, right? I tend to be a single player Halo player. My whole time with Halo MCC has been literally playing the Master Chief Saga from the first drop ship dropping onto Halo all the way to the end, over and over and over and over and over again. Sometimes you just play all the combat missions. Sometimes you play all the, you know, because the Halo MCC launcher allows for that. So I'm more often than not playing single player, right? So I personally did not feel the sting of pain when they said they were scrapping the split screen co-op of it. But I do hear those who complain out there and are quick to show, you know, the leader, the head of the studio on stage with a mic in her hand saying, we learned our lesson, we made a mistake, moving forward, no Halos will be made without split screen co-op, which, you know, obviously people are quick to now point out today. So there's both sides to all of this. But go ahead, Everborn. You can start the match. Go ahead. What do you think?
But if you could do me a favor, check the DM on Twitter. I just sent it to everybody, and bring that picture up on screen.
Okay.
While I'm talking here, and I think it's going to highlight why a lot of people are upset.
Oh, perfect. Yeah, I was looking for this as well. Thank you.
So the thing is, I'm sorry. So two things can be true at once. Most of the people upset yesterday were never going to play couch co-op, right? That's the first thing. But at the same time, this is an unforced error, and how many unforced errors do we have to have with it?
We have to have. That's right.
You publicly said this thing, and Rand said this yesterday. You are happy to get the short-term PR lift where everybody's happy. Oh, they're never going to ship without what do you call it? Without couch co-op again, right? You went on stage and said that, and now you're doing this, and you did this to yourself for an audience that has always that is already out for blood, right? You've let the audience down so many times, and again, we also have to acknowledge that there is no other game on the market that has this many requirements of it. But you are making these problems. So I can't really feel sorry for you. At the same time, I do understand. Point to me another game that on day one, you have to have a Forge mode and a network and couch co-op mode and new maps every month and all those other things that happened. But then you're going to bring up a picture that shows you something that explains why people are so upset. And when you hear, even though it's never been confirmed or corroborated, how much was the budget of this thing? When you think about when the last Halo came out, it all just paints this bad picture. And I wonder if Microsoft may be taking the wrong lesson from what happened with Sea of Thieves, right?
There we go.
Sea of Thieves started out dry as hell, got terrible reviews, but then they were able to sort of turn it around, and now we have like 30 million players there. And I think they're thinking they can do that here, but Halo fans are historically crazy.
Well, right? But see, you know what? I don't know that I don't know that I agree with you on that, Everborn.
Halo crazy?
No,
that's a scientific fact.
I definitely agree with you on that. But the idea that they took the wrong lesson from, I do agree with you that they took bad lessons. But I like from the actions and what I'm seeing, it looks like they actually didn't speak to the people who were making Sea of Thieves, because had they done so, some lessons that the Sea of Thieves team had learned would have found its way here, and it didn't. It seems like they didn't speak to each other when they were making this.
Well, I don't think that they would, because here's the other problem.
Because they're basically following the same business model, are they not?
This isn't only a problem for 343 and its management. I do think it goes above that, right? So the thing that people have to consider, one, when we say give Halo to someone else, my question is, who is someone else, and why the hell would they want this shit show?
Yes, exactly. I don't even think Bungie wants to touch it.
Right.
Because
so
like, and it has become this fabled thing that even they themselves will never be able to achieve, even if it was handed to them. Like,
yes, like
imagine
George
a world
R.
where
Martin
you give
actually finishing a Song of Ice and Fire.
Finishing the Song of Ice and Fire. Exactly.
Never happening. It's not happening.
So let it live on in what it could be in people's mind, and then blame the people who have it and are actually trying to take it forward. But anyway,
honestly, that's the reason why Halo. That's the reason why 343 deserves a bit of people's, like, you need to feel for them, because they are always chasing that proverbial like golden thing that they'll never get.
Yeah,
they're chasing the image of Bungie.
That works for Halo 5. That doesn't work for this time. No.
Right.
True. Okay.
They're too far in the weeds at this point. We're not giving them any.
You're not taking that. You're not taking that. Okay.
This is right. This is from the Halo guy, right? Nah.
Right. I hear you. Go for it.
Competence. This is no.
But and again,
go ahead, everyone. Go ahead.
So you can highlight what you have here for Halo 5 in terms of the maps added. You don't have to look at all of this stuff, because this can be confusing. Every month they added 2 to 4 maps every month.
Yep.
Right.
And they weren't officially even a games as a service game. Halo 5, although it really wasn't that official, that as that business model that we've come to know as that games as a service with a battle pass and all of that. They weren't really officially that when they launched, but still they managed to fulfill a lot of those requirements, right?
And really, they really should be, at this stage, there should be at least one map a month, and this is the map that brings everybody back for that month, and this is what we're playing, this is the new hotness, is fun, and then you move on to the next month, and it's the next map of the month or whatever. But I think the problems, like I said, are bigger than just 343, the devs, and Bonnie Ross. I think there's a lot of heavy lifting that they tried to put on this game, right? And what I'm talking about is, and this comes from marketing and above that as well, because one, they were saying we need to hit an arbitrary date of when you're launching your console, right? And so that's where that date came from, and it clearly had nothing to do with where they were in development, right? And then we're saying, and I'm not like saying it's not their fault. I'm saying the blame is more than just 343. Right? Because they made these promises. So then they're saying, okay, now you have to do this thing with a new engine, right? So they're building a new engine, and they're doing all of this. And this is like I'm saying they're doing this shit to themselves, but the blame can be spread all around No, absolutely not. And if I'm coalition, I wouldn't want it. But my
sorry, Jez.
Right, Jez
yeah.
Jez, give Rand his account back. What's wrong with you?
So this,
I'm sorry to inform Jez, but Gears is a little old in the tooth right now. It needs a reboot more than anything. But anyways, keep going.
But yeah. So what I'm saying, this is not to defend anything that's happening. This is saying you cannot just say fire Bonnie Ross or give it to another studio without looking at these other problems of why we got here. And so all of the things they were trying to do with saying, oh, we're going to make this a service game and we're going to separate the campaign from the thing and have another launcher, those are decisions that go all the way up the pipeline. And the fact that it could get here needs a more comprehensive look at how they are greenlighting things for what they're calling their marquee franchise. And I it's not necessarily a fire people thing. Maybe it is for certain people, but it is you're not going to fix this problem just by changing the dev or firing the person at the top. There needs to be a comprehensive look at how the F we got here, because it is trying to do too much. I'm sorry, it is. And people have those expectations now, and then they can't live up to those things. And the audience gets more and more pissed with every time they give news.
Well, I think
I don't see any way out of it.
I think it's an interesting topic because obviously, you know, at the end of the day, like you're sitting here as a Halo fan, and this is even people that came in with tempered expectations for what a live service from 343 is going to be the first year are probably this is probably below that, right? Like whatever bar we set or had in our mind, this is well below that, and it's kind of beyond that point of kind of arguing in favor of you know of whether they made some of the right decisions, but you know, a lot to what you were saying there, Everborn, you know, a lot of the buildup of issues is something that's kind of happened over years, and it doesn't just fall on one person's, you know, at the foot of one person. It really falls on
the marketing team too when we're talking about people who messed up.
You go to the very top. I mean, like Josh Holmes did an interview. I always go back to this, and I can never find the damn podcast I heard this on. But he, you know, like he talked about, you know, when they started, and I know Bonnie actually did an interview alluding to some of this too. But you know, like 343 is trying to carve their own identity. They were trying to bring in people that were not Halo people to try to pull it in their own direction. Holmes, when he like left and you know talked about his experience at 343 and like just how draining it was, you know, they would spend half the development cycles, you know, arguing. The cooks in the kitchen couldn't decide on direction, right? And he basically said you had these different factions fighting for things, and then at the end of the day, they would run out of time. They weren't given any more time, and they were forced to kind of ship something that was below everybody's kind of scope and expectation.
Can I say something controversial real quick, OBM?
Sure.
In these kind of game development studios, democracies don't fucking work. You need one person at the top that's going to be, listen, you guys fight, I'm going to make the decision now.
And we're going to get there because I think that's kind of like what I'm kind of going towards. So I guess, you know, here's what I'll start this with an analogy. I told you guys this before the show. Like, I'm a lifetime Detroit Lions fan. For anybody here who watches NFL football, you know the Lions have not been very good probably for a very, very long time. They won one playoff game in my entire lifetime. It was 91. They got their asses beat the next week, and they haven't won a game since. And no matter how many coaches or GMs come through there, you know, you get used to having certain expectations, and when something goes wrong, even if it's the new guy in charge, you're just like, sell the team, you know, like get rid of this team, like, but none of that's really realistic, right? Like if the Lions sold the team, who knows when we'll get another team, that kind of thing. So a lot of what I hear online, I understand it. I think people are understandably frustrated. As a Halo fan, I'm frustrated. I put in over 500 hours in this game, and right now the net code is as bad as I've seen for any AAA game going at this far after launch.
Are damning.
Yeah,
absolutely.
this far after launch, they're worse than any game I've seen since the 360, generation. I might have to go back to Perfect Dark to find a point of reference.
Yeah. If they hadn't gone with this service model and they just released what they released, do you think it would be the perception would be different?
I was 100% going to go there, man.
So let's keep going down that. So we had
also shout out to Starcasm in the chat. He's
So we had Josh Holmes leave. You had Chris Luongo, who was like I feel really bad bringing up names of people who failed. It's like going through the list of Lions coaches. But let's talk about Luongo was head of Halo 5's campaign, which we know was horribly received, and was still on the project until 2019 when they finally got him off because it wasn't working, right? And then Chris Lee was in charge of the studio at the time, and then I heard yesterday on the Xbox 2 podcast, Jez mentioned this, that Chris Lee was
misrepresenting a lot of things.
A lot of things. I heard that back in 2020. I don't want to pretend I'm an insider, but I did talk to people about Halo behind the scenes, anybody who will. And that was something that was said back then, that the people above Chris Lee, whether Bonnie Ross, all the way through Spencer Booty, I think it took everybody by surprise by where they were after that demo, the Craig Face demo. So there was
the Craig Face demo. Oh,
yeah,
no. Forever known as the Craig Face demo.
It's an infamous day in Halo history.
Man.
And then there's talking to people that have developed behind the scenes, there's other issues. So obviously, I talked to somebody who left the studio and said, every time they changed over leads, they would change over creative directions, or it would be a soft reboot, or we're going to stop doing this thing and let's go in this other direction. So that was wasted time. They struggled with the game engine. They were trying to rewrite this, and Jez even alluded to this in a previous show as well. He said 70% of the engine was rewritten late. One developer I know, behind the scenes, said that even really basic stuff while they were rewriting this, they weren't able to do. He was describing something with the pillars where just something you would think would just be just a simple thing to do in a mature engine. They were still struggling with this stuff late in development, and this is before all the COVID stuff. And the fact that they had tons of contractors over time that are constantly, rotating. And, Microsoft in the past, when they had headcount limitations, the way they'd work around that was with contractors. So yep. 343 has always had a lot of contractors to kind of, somehow they would get the budget for that, but they wouldn't be allowed to have, a lot of full-time employees for whatever reason. So what that did is that kept building up tech debt into everything, their net codes, their game engine, all that stuff. So there's a lot of things. And I think it's where I have, feelings, mixed feelings for a lot of the comments that I'm seeing online is that, a lot of the developers that are there today, it's kind of like that Lions coach that takes over and he's inheriting 50 years or decades worth of failures. And as soon as he has a bad game or makes a bad decision, it's like now he owns it. He's even under, Joe Staten, they have, made miscalculations. He's made promises that they've not been able to keep. Now the stuff with the split screen, that was made before made before any of these leads were in charge. And that was at a time when they didn't even know what co-op was going to be, promising ray tracing before you could even get Craig to have any textures on his face. These types of things were absolutely missteps. Fans have a right to be really, really frustrated. But the thing I would remind people of is, let's just think about Xbox, because sometimes I look at 343 where they're at today as sort of a microcosm of that. When Phil Spencer took over in late 2017, they started buying studios then in 2018. 2019, we all remember this in the community, is when they shipped Crackdown 3, A Broken State of Decay, and Sea of Thieves without any content, and that was what they shipped for the year. 2020, they launched a console without any AAA games, and people are questioning management, what's going on, and the thing is, with what I would say is that you have to give these the new leadership time. And for people who say, well, they need to change leads, we need somebody new running this, they've already been doing that. Staten came in place of Chris Lee after that demo right before the game was supposed to launch. And since then, many of the people who are in leadership positions under that, including the lead designer who designed the whole battle pass and the live service, which was Jerry Hook, he left, and he didn't leave under good terms. If you kind of read some read between the lines and some of the stuff, and just the fact he took 343 off all his mentions when he left the studio, like some of these guys aren't leaving under good terms. Sparth left. They've lost a lot of. If you look, they've lost a lot of people in senior positions. I think there's a lot of changes happening, and they've been happening. And the guy who spoke in the video that came out on Thursday, Barron, he is, he's only been in that position since May, and I'm already seeing people go, well, he obviously, this just is an example of somebody who doesn't understand Halo. It's like Joe Staten put him in place, right? Like in Joe Staten, he's been with Halo since the beginning. You go back and watch the Halo 2 documentary where, he's talking about we're going to have to make all these cuts, these modes that we wanted, these levels we wanted. We're getting rid of this stuff because we need this game to feel like Halo and need to be fun, like a Halo game should be. And so that's the guy who's kind of running the show. And I guess, where I would tell people to kind of slow down is like, let's see what happens. No matter if he is on the right path, if he is hiring the right people, you will not see those results overnight. This is going to go slower before it goes faster. I don't expect that even by season 3 that this thing is going to be firing on all cylinders. It might not be until 2024 if they get it right. And then we'll have to wait and see what happens with, whether people will come back. But, so they've already been making those changes, and they already are aware of the issues. And so at this point in time, we got to see what the new leadership team can accomplish in my mind, before I can go, okay, well, this isn't working either. And the thing is, if you hand this off to another studio, first of all, know that when people talk about like new game engine, they did try Unreal. Unreal didn't work with the open world.
Good luck getting it to feel like Halo.
Yeah, it didn't work with the open world. It didn't feel like Halo. They tried it. They didn't think they could pivot over to Unreal. And that's always going to be a challenge, right? You got a proprietary engine that's been recently rewritten. Even if you brought people from Bungie, they're going to have the slice of the engine they have right now has gone in a different direction since they took over Blam. So you're going to have a proprietary engine and if you want Halo to feel like Halo, this is the engine. Who else is going to run this engine? I think that really what 343 needs is they need full-time staff, and they need to be able to keep them longer so that you don't keep rotating people in there that are inheriting problems that they don't understand. And then by the time they understand it, then they're out the door. It's like they got to stop that cycle at some point, and they do got to find a leadership team that, and hopefully this is one that can communicate correctly and set the proper expectations. And they've already set out some things like, hey, March, we're going to go with 13 weeks. So let's, I guess we'll wait and see. I kind of like, it's like, all right, don't miss that one.
Well, I will say, I do like the rhetorical question, although I agree with your take here on this. It is unfortunately a wait and see situation still, but I'm still on that square with Mr. Slow-Mo Backslap and asking the question, why does Frank O'Connor still have a job there? That is still a question that has not been answered. And anytime anything untoward happens that surrounds him, all we hear is oh sorry. And then they hide away, and then the man still keeps collecting the check.
But brought up that Bonobo thing. So let's not
exactly.
Gaff, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, like the thing I say, like usually when things are handled at public companies, like if people are going to get moved out, I mean, like I'll give an example, and obviously this wasn't anything the same sort of issue, but when Chris Lee was moved on, they said he was moving to something else, and when they just disappeared. Like a lot of times, the problem, and this is like something too. This like another thing that I think a lot of people are like asking is like, well, go public with this stuff, or make some examples. The problem is like then when you try to hire their peers. You're not setting if you start backing the bus over people publicly, you're not going to be able to hire people anymore. And there's also legal ramifications too. I know this from dealing with I'm in management, and in the past it's been a while, but in the past where I've had to deal with somebody troubled, HR does they are going to CYAs. They do a lot of stuff there to make sure that things don't fall back on them. So I don't know that you'll even if all the proper avenues were taken behind the scenes, I don't know that we'll ever hear about them publicly unless somebody like a Schreier get some insider or get somebody off record to speak about it.
That's unfortunately the issue more often than not, because when Schreier and them tell the story, and not to take anything away from his journalistic style, the man knows what he's doing, but he then tends to tell the story he wants to tell rather than maybe what could have been told, or what may be nuggets that should have been context that should have been added, and instead it skews one way versus another. I feel like sometimes Microsoft should just take the bull by the horns instead of letting these things get out of their control. You know what I'm saying? But
I get what you're saying, and I don't disagree with Slomo too. I mean, like there's certain people that and he mentions a name there that it's like, I mean that person, Frankie is. He said questionable things before. Why? So I don't know. But maybe but like I said, if you look at this list of people that are just keep leaving, you haven't heard certain people's names lately. So if they're very, very quiet, so I guess just wait and see where they end up, because if somebody kind of just goes off the radar for a while, that could be sort of telling too. And I do see there's some people that have gone off the radar.
Okay, so we'll move on from this story, but I just had to. I saw it, and I had to laugh
on this one.
No, and we will. Pixel's here too, and I will add him into this mix as well. But I have to call out Starchasm's comment. As a brother, when someone's trying to be sneaky racist, it's like our natural spidey sense, right? And Pixel goes, "It's stay tingling, indeed, sir." Indeed. I'm sorry, but that just caught me off guard. Go ahead, Pixel. What is your opinion on this? Look, is this a situation where we can see, will this turn, this is my definitive question. Is this ultimately not Titanfall, is this ultimately what's the name of the BioWare game?
Anthem?
Is this ultimately Anthem? Is this Anthem, or is this No Man's Sky ultimately?
It's No Man's Sky.
Because it has to be one or the other, right?
It has to be No Man's Sky because they don't have a choice.
Is this what you hope, or this is what you think?
No, I mean, so here's the thing, right? I don't disagree with anything anybody said on the panel. It's just it is what it is, right? They've totally ruined this whole thing, right? But people have tried to compare this to the Destiny model, right? But even though 343 states that this is a live service game, they never really started this with the Destiny's model, right? Destiny's campaign and multiplayer are a combined object, right? They don't exist in two separate spaces, right? When you're playing campaign, you're in an instance of the multiplayer at all times.
Yeah, we actually kind of wanted it to be more like Destiny,
right?
So we could take our multiplayer characters into campaign. Yeah,
correct. So it's really it is still technically the old style of a Halo game, right? Where there is a separate and distinct campaign, and then there's a separate and distinct multiplayer, right? But where the only time that those two things have kind of merged was during the Halo Reach era, right? Which is kind of the game I was hoping they were going to make at this point. So in terms of it winding up like Anthem, it can't because Anthem sort of had a flash in the pan and then went away, right? Whereas Halo had a campaign. Right, it was a well-received campaign, right? So,
and by the way, when I say will it end up like Anthem, I don't mean in that it will be dead. I mean in that because of there's a lot of context, obviously, and a lot of nuance behind it, but because of the next story we're going to talk about, because of all the various places that the Xbox is now tapping in the gaming space. Maybe it's time to do what BioWare did to it and just kind of step away from it. That's what I mean.
Yeah.
Do they go?
No,
you know what? Every
no,
time we tap into
They-
this,
they-
it's more money lost. We now have COD, or we now have pick your franchise.
they can't,
Maybe we
because
leave that one to rest for a while.
This is
what do you
this is
think?
probably the only franchise. Not the only. Xbox walking away from Halo would be akin to Nintendo walking away from
Mario,
right?
Oh, that'd be tough.
Sony no longer has that problem. They don't technically have a mascot character, right? We know that God of Wars come out, every 7 years or something like that, whatever, right? It takes time to make those games, but we know they have enough other games that it's like, we're not concerned if the next one doesn't show up. Microsoft can't do that, right? Halo is kind of integral to the product. So for them, I think what they do is they do what Destiny did, right? We forget that Destiny was trash when it first came out. You can debate it if you want.
Not all of us forget that, but okay.
Yeah, but I don't, because that's the one I played, right?
Me too. I have many hours in that trash game.
I played Destiny 1. I played It Came from the Moon, right?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
It had a trash campaign. It lacked content. Very familiar. The difference was Halo doesn't have a trash campaign. It has a full campaign, right? It just lacks content. So they have an option. The only option for them, I think, at this point is it's kind of a soft reboot. I don't know when you do it, but it's a soft reboot.
See, there you go. Absolutely. And that's where my brain was going. You let it sit for a while, let people forget their frustration. Maybe you no longer want 343 to work on it. You can't just take it away from them immediately. That would become a huge cluster.
PR nightmare. So I have a plan.
So you step back. Hold on. You step back. You let COD become the new rule. Assuming all this, we're putting the cart before the horse. But assuming it's all said and done, you let COD become the new face. You let Halo rest, and then 2, 3, 5, 6, 7 years from now, all of a sudden a new studio is making something in the Halo universe. Maybe not not something involving the Master Chief himself, but I think Everborn, you and I had this conversation before, where maybe like kind of a what do you call it? What's the offshoot Halo franchise from the Halo franchise? Maybe an ODST kind, but from a different studio. Well, after the dust has settled,
they should be. I mean, I've been saying this for years that they should have been using this franchise better, right? So, sure, you could. The game I always wanted from Xbox is to make a behind enemy lines, single player, third person action adventure game starring Sergeant Johnson, right? That it kind of writes itself, but. I'm not even saying any of that. What I'm saying is,
I love Johnson. That man was boss.
Yeah, he's the only
we need a Captain Keys game.
Well, I ain't gonna lie. I ain't gonna say nothing bad about that. Let's keep it moving. Let's go.
As long as it's starring Asante, we good. So I think in the short term, they are kind of positioning themselves to fix this. I've always been saying that the current issue with their multiplayer lack of maps is that they want to rely on Forge. I've been said that, right? They want to rely on Forge. You're not seeing a bunch of maps. It's not just because the engine is trash. It's because they are actively in the process of making Forge. And the effort is going into there. And I don't understand why they weren't able to split a team and have somebody else working on something else or creating maps while you're building Forge. But if you put all your eggs into building something from Forge, then you're kind of stuck where you're at. So
okay,
wait 1 second. So this latest drop, please. What are they giving us? Giving us for maps? 2 Forge maps.
Yeah, true.
Right?
True. Yeah.
So to me, that tells me that once they get Forge running, they will start dropping a cadence of maps from Forge. And look, we've seen what the community can do with Forge. So there's clearly a lot of potential in that. My question is it going to be too late, right?
Because it'll take a long time to get that Forge up and running. And as Slow Mo just pointed out, desync is still going on.
Right,
So
his
100%.
right,
I've been saying that.
correct,
Yeah, I've been saying that in our podcast for the last few months. It's like I don't care how many maps you have, how many modes you have, how many people you bring back to the game. If the fundamentals of the game are not right, and they're not, and and it's not just desync. It's there's issues with the matchmaking. There's issues. They don't even have like stats in game right now. They don't have a lot of really basic core Halo features, or even just multiplayer features that kind of hold up the community in the base game. And so that is where. So listening to what they're saying, so kind of going back to what I was saying before, like about the new leadership. Right now, obviously, they're going to take a lot of hits, and this is something Microsoft needs to take and kind of see and hopefully learn from going forward. But what I heard from State and Baron, I know a lot of people don't like what they heard from both of them, but I will say I did, because they're instead of they could have maybe split up their efforts and try to get a few maps out there. There is some behind the scenes that they may already have, that developer made map, but they're trying to build up this pipeline so they can get on this 13-week thing. Instead of just trying to keep plugging the dam barely, or putting a Band-Aid over something that needs surgery, they're going to do that. I think they're taking this in the right order of prioritization, which is start with the game's fundamentals, and they talked a lot about that. And I think that's what a lot of the next few months are going to be. It's like, all right, we're going to throw this Forge out into beta, and hopefully keep things just sort of treading water at that point in time, but let's really get down to fixing the core game and make this feel like a Halo, like a Halo community, like get all the features there, get the web browser in there, all the really basic things, get a regular progression system. The progression system is, garbage right now. Half of it doesn't exist and the other half is a mess. So, I think that's the right decision. And when people ask, well, can it come back? I mean, nothing's ever guaranteed. Competition's a lot higher than it was when Destiny went through its troubles. There wasn't as many games out there to compete against. When Fortnite was in its preview mode, or PUBG went through its issues, when Rainbow Six Siege went through its issues, there wasn't the competition right now. It's a lot more crowded at the top. It's a lot harder, I think, to crack into that, consistent top 10 all the time rotation. But if you are looking for a hopium as a Halo fan, the one thing I'll go back to is if they get the fundamentals right, they do have, I think you go back to the initial impressions, the gameplay in the sandbox, most people agreed was really, really good. Most people were very happy with the music, the art, things like that, the really core elements. And this Forge that's coming out, if you haven't seen the leaks on it, is probably the most innovative or next level thing that's come from any sort of Halo team, maybe since the original Forge, maybe going back to the matchmaking of Halo 2. Like, this is really next level, the stuff where people can build in not just maps, not just detailed maps, game modes.
OBM, am I wrong in hearing the rumor that this is the same team that made the Project Spark? Like, there are a lot of Project Spark team members in the Halo Forge team. I read that somewhere.
Yeah, I don't know.
Have to hunt it down.
I don't know. I don't know who's behind it and how they've got there. But the thing is special.
It's the company that made Project Spark for Microsoft is consulting on this, supposedly. But I'll find the thing and put it online.
Whatever they have, it literally looks like the Unreal Engine visual design language.
Yeah,
you can build game modes in there. There's scripting. There's bots in there.
Let me ask you guys.
It is a next level thing.
What you think about this, right? So one, as a practical matter, I don't think you can give Halo proper to someone else at this stage. I just don't think it's realistic. I think, and I don't think any major studio that had any self-respect would want to take on this shit show, right? And what that means is, like, the Halo audience is never happy. You would always be held up to the glory days of Bungie. And no matter what you do, there will be things that people will just say you have to do. Do you understand that Battlefield 2042 just got rid of campaign altogether? I know it didn't turn out well, but people were fine and gave them that benefit of the doubt. until they got the, what do you call it, right?
Here you go, by the way.
Right.
Here you go. Here's the article. Halo Infinite being co-developed by the Forge and Project Spark developer.
All right. So the point I was coming to, a way to get out of this, I think, where you can kind of change up the guard without having as much of a negative PR hit, is if, like you said, you had another studio, whether it was id or Infinity Ward or Treyarch, after this acquisition goes through, you have them make a spin-off game, maybe starring Commander Locke, or like you said, Keyes or Johnson, right?
Yeah.
It's just something in the Halo universe that is
to remind you that the universe exists, but just keep you away from Master Chief.
And if it does well, you can transition that to your main thing.
Yeah.
But
what do you do with 343 in that?
No, I'm coming to that. So you can't just leave Halo Infinite alone. So I think you have certain affinities BR mode become the main mode of Halo Infinite, and you have them in charge, and along with the multiplayer team in 343, helping to release content. But basically, certain affinity would become the face of the
I agree with
live
that.
service,
Certain affinity has the history and the pedigree to definitely get
and then
be able to take it there. Yeah,
you put 343 on a completely new project that does not have any connection to the Halo.
So you change their name effectively.
No.
You effectively call them the artist known as the formerly known as 343.
So can I just everyone, I want to just add a couple more things, because everybody wants to see the change, and I understand that. So a few things we should mention, because you mentioned CA, Certain Affinity, who's run by Mac
with Creative Assembly, who they'll get when they acquire Sega.
Right. No, absolutely. We'll cover that soon. But Max Hoberman
for the show, people.
Max Hoberman. Yeah, go ahead.
When they build like the who are the core people behind all the Halos, the most important people in the history of it, Max Hoberman's going to be up there, right? He's going to be up on on your Mount Rushmore or whatever. He was the guy who basically did the sandbox for the original Bungie trilogy. He wanted to come back in and do more, and he wasn't able to, because 343 at the time was trying to kind of go their own thing and separate themselves a little bit. There was other guys that couldn't come back in. I can't remember what his name was, but he was also one of the core guys in Halo, talked about it. 343 was very resistant in the past to bringing in ex-Bungie leads with, design people. And
now it's Nathan in there.
Now it's staying in there. Well, it has changed. So, like he just recently brought in Paul Bertone, who was like a key guy with Bungie, with back in the original Halos, and now this relationship again with CA. CA is going to have a big part going forward, which is exciting. So, I think a lot of the things that people are wanting are kind of on the precipice, and we just got to see how it plays out. It doesn't mean it's going to work out. It is a new coaching staff, and they're bringing in new players, and we got to see how that pans out. But I think that the things people are asking for are right there, right? In Certain Affinity, right now they got to work through that engine. They got to get people to be full time on it. They got to get more efficient with it. We know that. But with Forge, with Hoberman's team behind there is hopium. There is hopium, and it is going to be. And I would say, when people ask the question, well, do they need to give Halo a break or something? I think Halo goes beyond just whatever profit it's bringing in. It's still, even though Call of Duty will be much, much bigger than Halo, it still is the brand for Xbox, right? It is the thing that, and this is when people say, well, Microsoft doesn't know how to run their studios. It's because they're looking at 343. It still stands for Xbox for most people, for most core gamers. And I think they owe it to they owe it to their fans.
To all of us. Owe it to, keep trying. Right?
They owe it to their core gamer, but they also owe it to themselves as a brand that they're trying to establish. This goes beyond whatever financial goals they had, to just get this thing right. And I do think they owe a big relaunch.
Basically, the way they handled Halo MCC. They could have they could have exit stage left, but they owed it to the fans. They owed it to the brand. They got it right. They need to do that here as well.
Yeah, and then they need to go all in.
Yeah. I have one last question related to Halo, and then we will move forward into our final topic, which I suspect will also take. We'll really have some opinions in there. My final question is, and this will be quickly for each of you, and you guys can also chime in the chat. Do you think that the initial mistake that they made with this franchise, even though you know that they've kind of gone in that direction already, do you think the initial mistake that they made in this franchise was actually officially making it a live service? Had they kept it the way it always has been, all that other do we envision a world where all that expected press of, oh, now you're a live service and you have battle pass and you expected content and would that have followed them if they had released a standard Halo like a Halo 3 or a Halo 4 with your campaign and your multiplayer, and then every once in a while we'll drop something on you? What do you think? OBM, you first.
This is one of those things, like after your team has a really bad season, you say, well, should we have done something? It's like, yeah, choose B, right?
I guess the question is, should they have been tried and true, because this is technically a new direction, right? The official direction of going as a live service, that's a new direction. Should they have stuck with what they were doing, I guess is my question.
So to answer it seriously, I think a lot of the challenges they're having right now are because it is a live service game, and because they didn't know how to launch a live service game, because they were not ready for a live service game.
They saw Sea of Thieves and went, we can do that. We don't have to talk to them about it.
Here's what we'll say is, like, if they were going to do a live service game, and if they were ever going to do this again with another franchise, the lessons learned is you need to have a pipeline built up. You need to be running when you have the expectations of a franchise like Halo. I would have preferred, if you kind of give me an either or, like at this point, a traditional Halo sounds really good right now. To be honest with you, more than a live service. That's me selfishly. But with remember, any lives,
and we said this on the show yesterday on Crossfire. Halo is a boomer shooter, man. It's a boomer shooter. It's not for the new school. It's for the old school. But the old school will always love it. And that old school don't need live service and battle pass, and you can hand it to us like you've always handed it to us on a CD, and we will play it. Right?
No, and you're right. So, but that goes to the question though. What do they want to do? Is it just is Microsoft going to move forward and just say, like, we're going to do like Nintendo does with Mario, and just keep it as, make sure you're just hitting that core base, the old Bungie fans, and we're gonna expand with other franchises? Or do you try to expand? You say, hey, this sandbox and these tools, like these Forge and this stuff, this is exciting enough that we think we could branch out. The only way you're going to branch out in this day and age and grow the franchise, like,
is
to like
live service,
is a live.
Yes,
The kids these days go for the cheap stuff.
I knew one of us would start that whole get off my lawn talk. These kids these days.
Yeah, that's how. I mean, that's the only way you're going to be able to grow it, and it's the only way you're going to be able to take chances. So I think the lesson is they probably, well, number one, I don't think they should have launched. I would, probably the right answer is, if they're going to do live service, they probably should be launching it either this year, or they should have, probably in November, or they should have just said, hey, we're launching a preview, right? And we're not going to charge you for battle passes. This is just going to be like the early stages. Get your
that preview
feedback.
Should have lasted a long time while they were working out the logistics. And
then if you're delaying the preview, you're going to get hit. But it's a different.
But it's better than a full product that has expectations. I hear you on that. I hear you.
Yeah.
Pixelbit G, your thoughts? Live service versus the tried and true method that we've known up until now. Do you think where they went is good? Do you think that they should have went the old route? Where do you fall on it? Go.
Bring that list back up that you had earlier that showed what the releases were for Halo 5. Yeah,
because clearly they seem to have it worked out when they were doing it the normal way, right?
So here's the thing: live service is the name, right? Mm-hmm. You're just actively updating a game. It doesn't mean anything other than.
But it comes with consumer connotation. It comes with consumer expectations, right?
It comes with expectations. Mm-hmm. But I don't think you guys recall the heat that Halo 5 got when it first released, and also was lacking in content. Right, there was some.
Pepperidge Farm also remembers.
Yeah, so there was some asternation there too. So one, we're talking about Halo fans first. Mm-hmm. And then secondly, compare your first 6 months of Halo 5 to the first 6 months of this.
Of Halo 6.
It doesn't matter what they called it.
Yeah.
They was getting smoked one way or the other.
Absolutely.
I'm just saying, if you take a look
at that's true.
You still are going to have the same problem.
Yeah.
You don't have content. It doesn't matter if you say this is a live service. It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, at least Halo 5, they didn't make you buy a battle pass that then showed you you're not getting.
No, they had some other nonsense with their. I forgot the rec was whatever system they had on there that people complained about. So it's,
true.
It's. I don't think changing the name changes the end result because at the end of the day, you still don't have content. You know what I'm saying? So,
absolutely.
You know what I wonder?
Okay. Go ahead, everyone. Round us out. What is you get the final word on this Halo topic? Go for it.
I think if it was a standalone product and what you got in terms of what the multiplayer was on day one, and it wasn't a service, the game got an 87 when it came out because everybody loved it. Right? If this were another kind of non-live service game, we would not be in the same predicament. And if it took them a year to do a massive update, people would be happier about it. And that's just a fact, right? Because you are not expecting it to be a live service. But again,
you put that name on there
because of marketing and whatever else, and you tell people, no, it's a live service game. It's free to play. We want you in here every day. Grind, right? Now you have a target on your back, and you did this to yourself. Absolutely. So while I get that what they're what's required of them, listen, with great power comes great responsibility, right?
Thank you, there, Uncle Ben. Appreciate you.
Sure. Well, actually, Aunt May now.
Aunt May now, yes, because they did split that on its head.
But the point is, like, this would be a massive triumph if it wasn't for people expecting it to be a live service. And obviously they should expect it to be a live service. Why? Because Microsoft told you it was a goddamn live service.
Exactly.
So
just like they told you, hey, local co-op. I don't care if there's local co-op, but you said there would be. So now it's on you to deliver. I don't care if there's ray tracing, but you said there would be. So it's now on you to deliver. Stop talking.
You shouldn't have promised ray tracing, which is
well, to be fair, when they promised ray tracing, nobody with a brain thought it was coming.
If you really want ray tracing, you got a 3080. You can get ray tracing today. You just have to put it in there yourself, which is possible.
Okay, but they shouldn't have said it. So I'm saying all of this. I'm saying all of this to say the game is an 87 with what they released, and it was great. It is the added expectations that they put on themselves why we're in this trouble now. So
unbelievable that me and Mr. Everborn Saga are on exactly the same page on this one. Oh boy. Yes.
Ultimately, though, I wonder, as a matter of practicality, why haven't they just released 1 or 2 maps every month, even if they were bad?
How many of those just re-release old maps? No. Why not re-release old maps? Maps that are tried and true that people know.
Because those are talking about grappling hooks.
Those will come with Forge, I think. Actually,
they'll come. But initially, I have said previously the reason they don't have the old maps is because the grapple hook breaks them. But at this point, they literally need to have 4 guys working on nothing but old maps. Port them in as they were.
But they have hundreds of people. They can't put 4 guys on that.
I'm just saying.
Okay, so now I'm gonna cut the conversation off because we are Halo fans. We're gonna keep talking about it forever, but we're done now. We are moving forward. And I will say,
I told you one of these topics could take the whole show.
We'll take forever. Yeah, absolutely. Thank you guys again in the chat. They're still going on. It's still moving forward. I appreciate you. About 60 people in the chat listening and or watching this right now. Please consider hitting that like button. Hit the subscribe button if you haven't done so already. Let us move forward because we have a block of last story that I want to touch on, but they all kind of fit together and they all still fit within this whole Microsoft Xbox conversation that we have been having now. Let me set a few of these up and we can have that conversation that I know everybody has wanted to talk about. So me, myself, and I, as folks know, myself and Everborn Saga, we speak pretty frequently. And even on this show, you've heard me say pretty often, somebody find the booty. Where is the booty? He is hidden. We need to go hunt him down. Where is the booty? Ladies and gentlemen, we found the booty. He has been all over the place as of late, which I found super interesting. And Everborn, if I'm not mistaken, you actually were you were talking to me about the interview that he did with Major Nelson, and there were some revelations in there. Now, in addition to that, he also was on the main stage at PAX West this week. If you happen to catch it, it was almost an hour interview.
I'm gonna leave the pack stuff to you. I'll talk.
I'll talk. Yeah, that's right. That's fine. Well, our interview where it was light, fluffy stuff, but there were still a lot of conversation had there, right? And of course, this is all with the backdrop of new information coming out relating to the ABK stuff and the UK going into phase 2 and all the verbiage that came out with the emojis and the blah, 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 right? So all of that seemingly kind of fits together, right? And of course, we'll double back to the story that we initially wanted to also touch on, which is then they also announced with Game Pass friends and family, they're now talking about it in Ireland, they're talking about it in Colombia, the pricing structure and all of that. So, okay. They're back in a big way now, really wanting to communicate and let people know what's what, right? So let me ask you first, Everborn. The booty finally made an appearance. You heard some things. What did you hear? And are you appeased by the booty's appearance? Because let's be clear here. On this show, we are on Booty Watch. Man is never available. I'm sorry.
Okay. So a couple of very interesting tidbits from the Major Nelson Matt Booty interview is that he talked about how the coalition is working hand in hand with Undead Labs, right? And why that's interesting and important is because people said, why isn't Microsoft stepping in and giving them the help they need to kind of get on track when those articles came out about the work environment, and they felt like that they didn't have help from up above. And guess what? They got sent help from some veterans, and they're showing them how to. Wow, you brought that on yourself. You brought it on yourself. Pause.
I want more. Come on, give me more.
Wow. Okay, but so the point is now, on the one hand, this is great news to hear, right? Because this is what we asked for.
Yes.
Microsoft proper, that one of their newer studios that they acquired are having some troubles. So isn't this the time to step in? So they step in and say, here is an experienced team that can help you guys get through whatever you're trying to figure out, teach you how to use Unreal 5. That's all great. But it also feels sort of compensatory, right? This is sort of like, hey, I'm the good sibling and I did all my studying and I aced my test. So instead of getting to go hang out with my friends as a reward and do what I want to do, I now have to help the sibling who cut class and is having trouble in school and do his homework for him. You know what I'm saying? Shouldn't 343 be able? It almost seems like because 343 has their stuff together, because they had to help bail out Halo, right?
You mean Coalition?
Sorry, Coalition, right?
Coalition.
Coalition had to help 343 when Halo was in problems. And
so
now
what you're saying is they're a victim of their own success, is what you're saying.
Yes. Now these guys have these problems, and now they have to go and help them. So who else are they going to have to help? If you're working on Unreal Engine 5, are they just sending some Coalition ninjas to help you? Right. So isn't that
what we've also wanted, though?
It is, but we also
wanted them to elevate their quality by having the ninjas out, right?
We also want a Gear 6.
True,
right?
That is true.
So that, but again, I still think it's ultimately good news, and I do also think that Coalition has SMEs, and those are probably the people that they sent out. I'm sure they didn't take everyone from the Coalition and say go over to help Undead Labs. Now, another thing he talked about in terms of sharing tech, he said that they've had in the last year over 25 kind of get-togethers where they kind of share, what they're doing, and you'll have the animation experts get up and show people who need help with animation, and the water and AI people and all those things, and UI people. And so I think that's good, and I think that is going to lead to great things down the line. And another thing he talked about was, him being at the top, he gets the blame, which would be great for some other people to say. Bonnie Ross. But the thing is, he talked about, reading articles about people saying studios are in trouble. And he's saying the way games are made today, it's not like you can get everyone together in one room and have a powwow and say, let's figure this out, because teams are distributed.
And he said this on the podcast, right?
Yeah.
Right. Okay, so it seems like they took the exact same talking point and they went and they did that keynote, because he said exactly the same thing at PAX West. Exactly the same thing.
He says he hears people saying,
he mentions the Crystal Dynamic.
Yeah, he said they're in trouble. And I mean, again, this is him like talking it up. Obviously,
it sounds like he was damage controlling.
Right. This is definitely what he was doing. Yeah, but the point is, there is truth to it, right? Of course. If you work in software development, you know that you have these distributed teams, and the idea of them bringing in Crystal Dynamics to develop this project alongside whoever's left at the initiative is sort of what we want. So we'll see where that goes. But I do think this talk of fire Matt Booty is premature. I don't think we can have that conversation. And I don't mean fire, but like that he's the problem here. I don't think we can have that conversation until 2023.
To be clear, from my part anyway, my criticism isn't fire. My criticism isn't even like call him to the carpet. It's, where are you, man? I don't see you. We don't see you ever. And finally, the booty's here. Congratulations. We see the booty.
In wrapping up, he says that, hey, he heard stuff about Fable and that looks great. And he's like begging them to be able to show it. And they're saying, no, it's not ready yet. Which, again, some of this curation in terms of when we show things is exactly what they got in trouble for before. And I think that that's smart to say, we're not going to show things till it's ready. That sucks. But after which I think was a great year, 2021 for Xbox Game Studios. I'm not talking about Bethesda, and I'm not talking about anything else. I'm just talking about Xbox Game Studios. I think that was a stellar year for them as a publisher. So you can't come off of that year. And again, every big game that came out this year, every one of them was slated for 2021. And all the games that Microsoft did in 2021 were kind of slated for 2020. True. So again, if this problem in 2022, is this issue, I do think we have to look at how many games got delayed. So I'm not on this train of we have to call him to the carpet yet. I need to see what he produces in 2023 in terms of Xbox Game Studios. So you do not get credit for Diablo 4 because that'll be first party, or Starfield.
That's not even Xbox Game Studios.
That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. You don't get credit for that, and you don't get credit for Starfield.
What happened to Mr. Everboard? I own it, so now it's mine. Like, what happened?
No, 1,000%. No. But what we're talking about for Xbox, they absolutely count. I'm saying for Matt Booty and determining what kind of
Matt
job
Booty's skill set, it doesn't count because it was already made.
We need to see what Xbox Game Studios produces next year, apart from Forza Motorsport. It can't just be that.
Yeah, understood. Yeah, no, I get you on that. 100%. All right. OBM, what are your thoughts on this? What this stuff has always been in the conversation, right? The clearly Microsoft needs to prove themselves, right? They've set up they've set the table.
Wait a minute.
Very
Live
well.
Supremacy. One last thing. Live Supremacy says Bethesda is under Xbox Game Studios. Yeah. Is it?
But he's not under Booty. They're not under Booty.
No, it's kind of adjacent.
No, they're under Microsoft. They're under Phil, under Microsoft Studios.
Yeah, Booty doesn't control them. They are basically equal to Booty's organization.
Right, and then that has multiple publishers, so it's not technically under him, right? And Activision won't be under him either. Not
exactly.
Directly,
so. And Activision, if I'm not mistaken, will also stand independently as Bethesda stands now. Obviously, Bethesda will, Activision Blizzard will be a huge monster that will dwarf all the others. We shall see how that ends up changing the culture there. But again, OBM. We've been talking about this for quite some time now. Some question Xbox's and Microsoft's ability to close. Right, there has not been a year in the last foreseeable couple of years where there haven't been an asterisk of some kind, whether it's their fault or not. Right. Whether it's something that an error that they caused, or it was just the nature of the beast. It seems that their competitors seem to have more closing, and they seem to have more asterisks and excuses so far. Right. Now we see Matt Booty's out here. We see, and it's all within the backdrop of, hey, we're trying to finish this ABK deal, and we'll get into that more fully in my next round of questioning here. But what do you think about? Did you see him coming out? Because he seems like it's almost like he heard us saying, "We don't see the booty. Where's the booty? Where's the booty? Come on, where's the booty?" And then he decided to make an appearance just to go, "I hear you. I've seen enough of the podcast. Trust me, nothing's wrong." What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, and at the end of the day, nothing really tangible happened with this interview, and I don't know that anything came out here that was groundbreaking. For me, it's always been the exact same. It doesn't matter whether these games have been delayed or what the cadence is right now. The answers are always the answers will be when those games release. If they're good games, he's doing a good job. Their philosophies are working. If they are, if they're broken, incomplete, if they're, not good games, then obviously that's when we start looking at the management. I look at that more than the cadence, because the cadence, you look at the dry spell, that really comes down to, that goes up to the top. That was planning. That was them not being all in on gaming for years. They didn't invest. They weren't investing much, and it was Halo, Gears, and Forza was all they're putting money into for
hamburgers, fries, and a shake.
That was it, man. Up until 2000. I mentioned it earlier in the show, and I guess I was under the assumption most people are pretty happy with Phil and his job, and it's like and I am personally.
Yeah, me too. I think he's doing a great job. Yeah.
But at the end of the day, those purchases, we haven't, people talk about the studio management. I don't think we can really draw conclusions until the product is out there, because, development does go through its ups and downs. Things do change.
Now, here's a question I have, and it's not necessarily a pushback from me, but for those who say that specifically for Booty, part of his job is not just the finished product, but it's when it comes out. If it's not out, what else is out? It's the planning. It's the
hold on a minute,
placement.
I said this to you on the phone yesterday, and nobody's gonna want to hear this. If there are no backup plans, meaning why aren't second party deals done and all these other things, isn't that the fault of Sarah Bond? His job is to run the internal studios at Xbox Game Studios. The publishing stuff.
Game Pass, right?
Yeah, she's publishing, right?
Right. So if we want those other backup deals that we say he should have had, then Sarah Bond should have got that for us. No?
You mean so like the Lies of P's and all of those, that's her domain, and so she should have been ready to fill that in.
But she did get Lies of P.
That's my point. That's why I chose that. That's why I said that. So it is happening, at least in that.
No, but I'm just saying, let's not give him the blame for that. His purview is these internal studios.
Oh no, I get that, but I guess my blame, if there is blame to be levied at him, or the blame that gets levied at him that I choose to think about a little longer than just assuming it's just console war rhetoric, that blame is more of the idea of, well, your counterparts in various other studios and other publishing houses and other platforms have a lot less to work with, and they're still somehow able to plan A, plan B, plan C pretty well, even with the internal studios. What do you say?
And it's very simple. I mean, Sony's been doing this much longer than Microsoft. They have very established studios, very mature processes. They know what they knew what they wanted to be when they grew up. They got there, and they are basically a very mature sort of
well-oiled machine. Yes.
Yeah, and Microsoft isn't.
I've heard Jaffe, old developer, God of War developer, say, come on, Microsoft, if you need to, go poach somebody that knows how to do it, because clearly you need some of that maturity. What do you think?
So I've heard that, and so let's kind of address that. Like we talked about, Sony knows what they're doing. Nintendo has obviously certain games that they kind of know how to churn out. Microsoft they went from 0 to we want to go from 0 to 100 overnight, and they started buying
seemingly
studios.
Yeah.
and there isn't and I'm trying to think of how to articulate this without sounding like it's a negative for anybody else, but they don't have a template, right? Like Ubisoft, whether you love them or hate them, they have a certain processes. They know what they're going to try to do in general. Sony the same way, Nintendo the same way, and those are the publishers that have been able to kind of be more consistent over this entire COVID period. Microsoft is got a very, I don't think there's a single person in the world that's going to know how to manage everything from an RTS to a platformer studio to all these big Western RPGs to first person shooter studios. Like you basically, when you're going to grow that fast, you need to be bringing in people that are established and that you can trust, and that they're going to do their job. And in cases like with Undead, they brought in some leadership team that really didn't do, I guess, what they expected. You're gonna have issues, and then to me the question is, like, how do you resolve that stuff, right? And it sounds like that's a studio that they did get back on track. It sounds like the things that they did have issues with, they have resolved. Rare, obviously had challenges, and they changed over leads, and at the end of the day, projects in video games, especially when you're doing new IPs, especially when you are not kind of building off of some sort of foundation, these things can go through a lot of different, forms, and sometimes they don't work. A lot of times games get canceled behind the scenes you never know about. Some of the best games of all time usually come together very late in development. You can go watch the documentary on the God of War for 2018, whether it's the early
absolutely
Bungie Halos, the Mass Effects, the early Mass Effects. I mean, all these are games, some of the best games of all time come together in the last 6 months. And if you talk to developers, that's kind of normal. So I say all that to say that, and this isn't to put what anything Booty's saying is down. Nothing he said is really moves the needle one way or another.
Yeah.
It's
I'm just
same
surprised that
as
his face is visible, because that's one thing has not happened in a while.
and that helps, right? Like when you talk to people, when you go into hiding, people start assuming something's wrong.
That's right.
So
that's right.
So talking is good. The thing he's talking about with the coalition helping, that's not an abnormal thing either. Studios, if you have
actually makes us feel good, doesn't it? It makes us feel good knowing that they're sharing technology left and right. That's what you want to have happen, right?
Right. I mean, studios sharing resources, that is something, again, we want to start seeing that more with Microsoft. That is something that Sony does. And because a studio isn't going to have, you have like 300 people in the studio, and I think Coalition's under 200, but let's just say 200 people. You're not going to have 200 people working on, developing the game fully all the time. Generally what happens is they go through, especially if they're not following the Gears 5 template for the next Gears. If they decide it needs to be freshened up, we need to come up with some new ideas. The design phase sometimes can be longer than full development, and when you're not in full development, you got a bunch of coders, and that's one of the reasons they've always used contractors so heavily when they only had a few studios. But now what they can do is, instead of having contractors, they could have full-time people. And when this studio is kind of in its design phase, the pre-production, you can take some of those developers and move them over to another studio that is in full production. And the fact that, Coalition is probably as good with the Unreal Engine as anybody, I look at something like that as a big positive, right? So nothing that was said there was either alarming or reassuring. I think you could say everything you want about the initiative. Oh, everything's great. The proof will be in the pudding. This is a new IP.
It's just interesting that he's at least trying to address some of those concerns that have been festering in the market, in the environment for a while, which I thought was notable. Like, hey, at least he heard some of these things and he's actually talking about them. Usually none of that's even happening.
And hopefully you take some heat off of the studio. You don't want people talking crap about your employees. Let them get back to work
without all the stress and all of that.
Yeah. But at the end of the day, like no AAA game is the idea that everything is going swimmingly and everything's going that. The best games of all time, if it's more than 6 months out, it's probably hell. Especially if it's a new IP or they're going to go through ups and downs, and I don't think anything he says changes that.
So let me highlight some of Slow-Mo's comments here. He's saying Matt Booty's template is, I asked them to give me something new to show. They say no. What can I do? Right? And then to Everborn's point before, the coalition's reward for having their ish together is they have to be everybody else's support studio.
Yeah, I got an issue with Everborn making that statement. So,
but it's
let's go.
Let's go. Let's go. You know what I'm saying? So you are a subject matter expert. People reach out to you. That's why you're there, right? So
exactly.
Especially in the case of Undead Lab, and that's my studio because I rock.
Yeah, you are big with
I got hundreds of hours in that game. That's my game. So that studio's biggest issue is a lack of skill in tool set, right? They have a game with an amazing, unique design that is not being done anywhere else in the industry. Okay, that's what SOD is. It is a very unique game. It needs technical prowess to be added to it. So we've heard that they've added on an animation studio. We've heard that they're shifting to Unreal 5, right? So in terms of Matt Booty talking, I don't really care what he got to say. Show me, talk to me next year.
Show me when you got something.
Talk to me when you got something shows up, because they were like the first buy. Right, we haven't seen them.
We still haven't seen hide nor hair of anything they have to show. Yeah,
heard nothing from them. So talk to me then. But in terms of
hey Pixel, what would have been interesting to hear from Matt Booty is if he said what the hell was going on with Rare and Everwild.
No,
that would have been newsworthy.
We don't talk about Everwild.
It's like Bruno.
Bruno. Yeah, we don't talk about Everwild.
They rebooted it instead of canceling it. I think that's the thing you could take away from that. Like in the past, they would have just canceled it. They're putting somebody else on it.
Yeah, but they're starting over. So that to me, I mean, that's good. It's better than losing a game project altogether. So, but the most interesting about
this is another scale bound.
Well, yeah.
Yeah, it's not scale bound.
Yeah, the most interesting thing about him finally coming out and speaking is that they are trying to build synergy between their teams, right? And that's something that we know they weren't doing previously, right? Because Xbox projects they tend to be different. They don't follow a template like Bad Mutha was saying, right? And that's not a disrespect to anybody else, but if you have your lighting rig set up for every game and it's kind of the same way and you use the materials the same way, it makes your development easier, right? You're using similar tools, things.
But then you also run the risk of heading in that Ubisoft territory where people start complaining,
Yeah, and other studios, right? But it's effective at getting games released on time, right? Because you're not struggling with, oh damn, how do I do animations for climbing over a wall, like basic stuff, right? Which Undead Lab has struggled with.
True. Absolutely.
The best thing you want to hear is that the teams that are best at doing what they do are working with the other teams. And in this case, because Microsoft is heavily invested in using Unreal, not making deals and talking crap out, saying that we're championing Unreal, but you don't actually use Unreal. They use Unreal a lot, and they're going to be using it a lot for their studios.
So clearly, Mr. Pixelbit G is here for that smoke. You want to speak about that
I'm
smoke. Just
saying, right? So, the coalition is one of the best at it. You should be
Mr. Boomstick, welcome, sir.
Hey, Boom. You know what I'm saying? You should be using them to help your other studios, especially the smaller, AA studios that are trying to become AAA projects, right? Absolutely. So I think that was good. So it was good to hear, but at the end of the day, yes, we need to see something, especially from his side of the fence, because as of right now, based on new purchases, I don't think we've seen a single project from Xbox
from Studios proper.
Yeah, Xbox Studios proper that wasn't in development when they
were purchased. Yes, we haven't seen anything that has their fingerprints all over it. Nothing yet.
Right. So they got a way to go. So I'm more interested in have him come out to PAX and tell us about his awesome teams when he actually starts delivering.
When he actually has something to show. Absolutely. You know what? Let's while we're continuing down this path, let's layer on some more of this Microsoft talk on here, right? So clearly they are out in front. You see them coming out. Last week you saw Phil Spencer out in front speaking about all the various movings and shakings now in going on in the ABK deal now. Everborn, I will let you speak on this first because you brought this to our attention actually when all of this started coming to the forefront about the various and what we're talking about is basically the title of this show, right? The UK's CMA board pushing to phase 2 of the the investigation of whether to allow or to sue to block this ABK deal from happening, right? Recently, we heard a bunch from the Brazil investigation, which was made public, which was very interesting, and a lot was said there. And then, of course, now we see the UK stuff going down. Everborn, how about you give us like the broad strokes of what you've read, and we can kick off that conversation there.
Okay,
with the backdrop of everything else going on.
I think people are not gonna like me.
Please speak on it, brother. Keep through this. Go ahead. Yes.
Thing. So I think we need to keep in the front of our minds that that Brazilian document that was translated for us, right? We also need to keep in front of our minds that the FTC has gone to a phase 2, right? And we also need to keep in our minds that different jurisdictions, different countries, different regulatory bodies, they have different ways of communicating their information, right? So, for example, we heard that it's going to get messy. Don't worry. For example,
I love our audience.
We know that Saudi Arabia has already approved the deal, right? And we also saw that Bobby Kotick put out a statement yesterday letting us know that the deal has been approved in several other regions as well. So it's more than just Saudi Arabia, right? And we know that as far as the FTC is concerned, they are in the second look phase. Some info came out the other day that Microsoft believes they've answered all of the FTC's questions, and now there's some sort of a artificial shot clock on the FTC. So I'm sure we will hear about whether they want to move for further investigation soon, extend the deadline, or step out of the way. So all that being said, we heard back on July 6th that the CMA, which is basically the UK's version of, the FTC or the DOJ or whatever. It's their Competitive Markets Authority or something like that it stands for. Competition and Markets Authority. So we knew that they had given a deadline back on January 6th for September 1st for when they'd make their initial decision about whether to go to a phase 2. So, even on the 31st, they had not said anything yet. And then on September 1st, as they said they would, they put out their findings. And oh boy, right? At first glance, it reads like they, copy and pasted from Sony's concerns in the Brazil document. At another glance, it feels like they feel like their definition of competition is Sony maintaining the leader status in terms of market share. It also seems that, and it seems that way because they don't seem overly focused on mobile or PC or even the Switch. And you can look at how many times Sony is mentioned. And
it's not even that. It's not that they're just focused on those other platforms. They seem to always have Sony's best interest on their mouth, like in the documentation they read. It's always about, hey, your competitor is here. We want to make sure they stay there. What are you going to do to make sure they stay there?
Right.
Like, which is very odd, right? So if your role is there to stay, to keep both roads parallel and to keep competition, it shouldn't matter to you which one is here versus there, as long as they're both there. You know what I'm saying?
And so the question, again, at first glance of, are you here to protect the consumer's best interest or Sony's best interest? Right. So there was that going into it. When I first read this, I was like, what the hell is going on? But now you have to sit back and say, if you're familiar with the term fog of war, we are in the middle of this and we are very close to it. And we pay attention to these things a lot because it is just what we do as fans of the industry. Right. But if you step back and look at this 30,000 foot view, how is this any different from the Brazilian process? Except the difference is in the Brazilian process, we heard about it at the end. So the Brazilian authorities, they go around and they say, hey, market participants, do you find any issues with this thing? Do you see any potential concerns? In Brazil, nobody had any concerns except Sony, right? They asked a bunch of people. It was only Sony that had these concerns. So it seems to me that the CMA has done the same thing. And because no one else had concerns, you are only hearing the concerns of Sony right now when they reached out to market participants. And when you study these markets, meaning we don't expect them to know the intricacies of every industry. So they have to reach out to third parties, which may include lobbyists, which may include, contractors. Again, some of them could be on Sony's payroll. I'm sure some of them are on Microsoft payroll, whatever, right? The point is, I hear a lot of talk about
saying the palms have been greased.
No, that's not what I'm saying. That's
I'm waiting for a good conspiracy theory here that we can dive into.
Actually, the opposite of what I'm saying. I'm going to tell you why. I hear a lot of talk about the CMA has been bought. If anybody was buying the CMA, it would be Microsoft, right? If they were for sale, right? So there's that. Now, again, the phase one for this process with the CMA is only notifying everyone of the potential concerns, right? The is only notifying everyone of the potential concerns. That is the bar, right? But in phase two, the bar is prove it, right? And so what we saw in Brazil was concerns were raised. Microsoft had an opportunity to respond. We saw what their response was, and now we are where we are. Because we haven't gotten to the phase two yet, this feels very one-sided. This feels like the CMA has basically is doing the dirty work of Sony. I would argue that that's not actually the case, and I will take it a step further, right? When we get to phase two, there is an independent authority that is contracted to review this thing, so it actually won't be the CMA, and Microsoft will have every opportunity to respond to these things one by one. And I think they expected this, and I think they were ready for this. And as we talked about with the family plan for Game Pass, it's no coincidence that that was unveiled in Ireland, right?
The
It
needle
is
being
no
threaded.
coincidence that, again, I say it's no coincidence that the argument that they're making is using ZeniMax as a reference for what they will do with their games, and ZeniMax games not actually being released yet. I don't think that's a coincidence either, but you can fight me on that if you want to.
Well,
right?
no,
Now,
actually, you know what? That part right there, as far as the what they're using to make their argument, also speaks to the fact of maybe they have a lobbying arm that possibly is filling their gaps for them, because who benefited the most or the least from ZeniMax being acquired, and how it played out the way it played, right? Sony did, because in the beginning it was, hey, it's going to be exclusive, it's going to be everywhere, it always was, and then afterwards it was only where Game Pass lives. So even though it didn't hurt consumers at all, because at the end of the day, the games ultimately were in more places and were cheaper to access, right? But to Sony, it was detrimental. So I find it very suspect that now that kind of argument and the ZeniMax argument is added to this as well. Because again, it speaks to not necessarily bad for consumers, but more bad for Sony.
But again, if you are Microsoft lawyers in the phase two, you make quick work of that by doing J-Mo
no
Money.
doubt.
Let me finish.
No doubt.
What J-Mo Money points out was, you're talking about what we did with ZeniMax. Literally, the only thing we've done with ZeniMax so far is release things on Sony's platform and not ours.
True.
Right?
Also, very
so
true.
all these things will be
two games
made
on the competing console, not on their own.
But you also have to understand, when they're talking about new entrants into the market, I'm sorry, Phil literally said he wants to keep bad actors out. And this is a person that is a representative of a $2 trillion company saying he doesn't want anyone else in the market. Now, we get it. We understand bad actors. He wants to preserve it. But if you are any regulator worth your salt and you hear someone say, I literally say, and this is someone who is, again, a representative of the second largest company in the world, saying, we're in this market. We want to make the largest purchase in the history of this industry so we can keep new players out. Guess what? That raises antennas.
You know what? I don't disagree with you on that point, but the context there,
is
even
fantastic.
And even in that instance, you can easily dissuade that point. And as you keep saying, Brad Smith can easily make quick work of that, because all you have to do is look at Amazon's entry in here. All you have to do is look at Google's entry and exit, and then you can literally compare that and say, hey, did Microsoft have anything to do with their failure or success? And there you go.
And that is what phase 2 is for.
True.
But we are going to phase 2 because this is a $2 trillion company making the largest purchase in the history of this industry. And if you ever thought that this was not going to go to a phase 2, I have a bridge to sell you.
That's right.
So the other hilarious thing about all of this, to me, from the Xbox community, every one of us, and I want you to go find a mirror or put on the selfie camera on your phone and look inside of your face. And tell me every one of us hasn't said, we don't know how Sony is going to compete if COD goes into Game Pass with the Series S and cloud and everything else they have going on. We've all said this shit, and now we're surprised that these regulators want to come in and look at the deal. We know Sony can't compete. You know it in your heart.
We know they can
compete. That's not true.
Just fine in position 2 or 3. They can compete.
Yeah, but that's exactly it. First and foremost, that's not true. They can compete. That's one. We know that they can compete. They're choosing not to compete, because if they wanted to compete, very simply, that like from the moment that COD was announced, and there's been lots of reporting that they were caught flat-footed on that moment, right? From that moment, if there was no if we have not if there has not been a secret project to start up SOCOM or something of its ilk, then that's their fault, and that's something that they're going to have to learn to deal with, right? Do they have options? Of course they do. They can easily enlist Google services, because they're literally selling your option, your solution, right? They're selling that.
Yes,
you don't have to go with Microsoft. You can
do that they will be able to compete.
Yes.
In a phase 2, a broadened.
No, I get that. No. Let me be clear here. Let me be clear, Everboard. Let me be clear. I feel like you're arguing the point that people are surprised as a phase 2. That is ridiculous. That, you and I agree. That this was always going to have a phase 2. We knew this. That's why when people going, I think it's going to be out before Black Friday, I'm like, as Everborn has said before on this show, Microsoft knows what they're doing when they tell you where in the bleachers the ball is going to go. They knew this was going to happen, so that their idea of first half to second half of 2023, they knew what they were doing when they said that. They didn't just spitball it. They knew it, right? So with that in mind, you and me, everyone, we're in complete agreement. I never thought one step at all this would just sail through. The question was which one was going to stop.
Let me just make a couple of more points, and then we can move on to the next person. We have to look at similar deals to this, and the closest deal I could come up with is the Fox Disney deal, which from the time it was announced to the time it closed, and they had to do consent decrees, and they had to sell off different pieces of the things, that some of it they didn't want, some of it they didn't. That took 14 to 15 months to close. This is a deal that is the same size. Yeah. No, it's the same size. The Disney deal was $71 billion.
Oh, yeah, you're comparing to the Fox deal. Yes.
Billion. So again, I thought it was going to happen this year, just after the move they did with the CWA for the unions. But after this, I'm coming back to the reality of what I was saying before. It's going to close next year. And I do think these are all arguments that Microsoft lawyers. And by the way, if you think Microsoft, you might think Phil Spencer is kumbaya, but Brad Smith is a goddamn wolf. And if you think that they lose $3 billion if this doesn't go through, you think Microsoft is just going to throw away $3 billion?
It depends on how they lose it.
Fight against this.
If they lose this deal because of Microsoft's fault, they lose a substantial amount. If they
but
lose
that's
this deal because it's not their fault, they don't lose that. I get your point.
What you need to look for, and this is another problem, right? Because the CMA seems as though they were making an argument for the console market being a cartel, right? Meaning these three main players are in here and they're stopping anyone else from getting in. And it also seemed like they were taking aim at the idea of timed exclusives in general. This whole talk, read this thing.
Where you're going with that, right there. The whole idea of timed exclusives alone. When we were talking about this is why I say, and here's my conspiracy theory, by the way. We all have.
Oh, here we go.
Here's mine.
Here we go.
Okay, mine is and it'll dovetail into exactly what Everborn is saying right now. My conspiracy theory is there's a reason why Jim Ryan is the head of SIE. He owned the UK, right? And in order to own the UK, you make connections, you make communications. Before Microsoft announced this whole Activision Blizzard King deal is happening, you bet that they contacted some people in the FTC that they know, right? It's not you don't hear about it on the news. You're given the warm transfer before that happens, right?
That's everybody.
If nothing,
right?
that's everybody.
That's
Exactly.
Yeah, that's politics.
So if nothing else, now I'm not saying somebody bought and paid and all of this. If nothing else, he got his concerns on the docket. Because he called in. Let me finish. He called in some favors, right, and got his concerns on the docket. Now, ultimately, will that work out for him or them? That's where I'm with you, Everborn. I think ultimately they're trying to shake right now. They're trying, and this is complete conspiracy theory on my part. They're trying to shake Microsoft loose for a consent decree or some kind of mea culpa in order to finish this and move forward quickly. So they're hoping Microsoft will do that.
That's any business deal, right?
But if they don't, though, the thing that will happen here is they will go to court and Microsoft will systematically dismantle every argument and point it right back at them. There's evidence of all of that.
Here's the game of chicken that they're playing, right? Microsoft wants to close the deal quick, so they would have to concede some things that maybe they don't want to concede. But I think Microsoft knows if we go to court, we win this. Do you want to go to court with us?
Yes.
And they have to find a diplomacy from both of their parts. Microsoft doesn't want to give up too much. The regulatory bodies knows they would probably lose in court. Scrutiny. So what do you really want to do here?
Yes.
Right.
And yes, we had exactly that same point, Pixel. Honestly, it's that they want something on paper. So Microsoft that's the first. What did they do? Microsoft first came out on Jump, putting COD out there as a sacrificial lamb. Don't worry about it. COD is free. You got it.
Honestly, real talk. What I think that Sony is hoping for is that they can get something on paper in whatever regions they can.
Yes.
To say it's not just about blocking the deal. It's really for Sony about blocking COD from coming to Game Pass.
Yes.
And what'd you say?
They're not getting it.
They're not getting it, but this is what they're trying for.
Yeah,
right?
That's what they're trying. Exactly. They want something locked down so they can use that, and that will help buffer them in the short term while they then maybe get their SOCOM off the ground or something like that in the next gen. That's what they want right now.
They're basically buying time. So
exactly.
Again, we could end up in a world, and I don't see this, right? Because Microsoft.
Hell no! Do you spend $70 billion on that and go, okay, I will lock it down in perpetuity? Get out of here with that.
No, but they're not going to say in perpetuity. Microsoft is basically putting a flag down. This is why the words from Phil Spencer's article are very important. They're saying, listen, we can negotiate on some things, but these shits are going in Game Pass.
No.
And if you don't want that, we will fight you on it.
Yeah. So they've also, he's been reiterating the same points over and over since January, right?
Hasn't said
we
anything
are
new.
Happy to put COD on PlayStation. And that's the concession that they're offering.
Yeah.
And they keep saying it. But
Yeah.
that's all they're offering. They're not offering putting it on PS Plus.
Well,
They're
but remember,
offering anything
Pixel,
else.
you remember some of the verbiage that was used in the recent CMA concern statement. Not only putting it on PlayStation, but putting it on PlayStation in an what was it, in a competitive way, aka that's literally saying yeah, we can have Call of Duty, but if you make it free or $1 on your service, that's not fair. We don't want that either.
I almost feel like it's saying that they're saying Microsoft, after spending this $70 billion, can't do the things that Sony is doing right now with their marketing deal, which is insane to me.
Which is what tells me that when this goes to court, because they're trying to play that chicken,
all the dirty laundry is going to
all of it will come out, and Sony does not want that. Am I wrong here? Because they're literally just like the Apple Epic deal. But a lot of that dirty laundry will be literally forced into the air.
It's time. And here's the other thing I'll say, and then you can move on.
Please.
You know, the idea that in the face of Sony being the market leader by a very large margin in the UK, and then, you know, raising game prices to 70, and then saying we don't want to put games in our service that could compete with COD, right? Imagine if God of War was in their PlayStation Plus subscription. That's why the numbers are where they are, not because of anything else. And then at the same time saying, we just raised prices after we said we're profitable. Good luck. And this is why that whole 5-day thing means nothing. Microsoft is going to let that 5-day. We're not giving you anything. We're not satisfying anything in 5 days. You think that we're anti-competitive, or we could be? Let's try it. Prove it.
Yeah.
So, but again, I say all that to say this is the same thing that happened in Brazil. It's just we're in the middle. We're getting info in the middle of it, as opposed to at the end when Microsoft was able to present counter arguments. And I think this will ultimately end up the same way. So if you weren't paying attention to this now and you started reading all these articles 6 months from now, the Brazilian and the UK thing would play out the same way.
Okay, OBM. Let me get your take on this, but let me put a twinge on this one.
Okay,
as I get you in on here. But like, I hear what everyone is saying, and I by and large agree. The only thing that raised an eyebrow for me specifically, nothing else, not the court, none of that. It seems, and everyone seemingly is right about this is just a cyclical process that's happening on all the various versions of the FTC in all the various countries, right? The difference that I've noticed here, and maybe you can talk me off the ledge here, or tell me what I'm saying is ridiculous, but it seems that the verbiage that the CMA used specifically was unusual in that it was kind of almost like they were being the surrogate for Sony, which is not what they do normally. Usually, when these things happen, it's, you know, we're the referees on the field. We're calling the balls and strikes. We see this, we see that. This is what we're deliberating. But in this instance,
do they usually use
more
emojis?
like, yeah, you're right. They don't use emojis. It's usually dry and boring, right? It's dry and it's boring. But in this instance, it's kind of like, hey, you know, we're here for the people, aka. And right now, the people have made Sony number one. So how are you, competitor, going to keep the people's business happy by keeping them so it seems? What do you think?
Yeah, you mean the fact that it looks like it was written by somebody off of Reset Era?
Yeah. It seems like somebody went to their intern and went, you played the games. You know the PS controller.
Not even the intern. It's like somebody at Reset Era. Oh, you have a good argument. Why don't you go submit that? No,
please shed some light here. What do you think?
Yeah, that argument's interesting, and I listened to Hogue a bit on that too, and he was kind of taken back by that as well. And you know, he's the one who deals with mergers and acquisitions, but you know, I don't. But the thing is, like, even when this deal initially was announced, you know, listening to people that are experts on it and just looking at precedent, there isn't a lot of precedent right now for this deal not to go through. At the end of the day, it is pretty much vertical integration. Generally, those things do not get blocked. There's not a lot of history of it. The one avenue that though the thing that we have to recognize, like if we step back from gaming and just try to understand politics, which I guess if we're talking about this need to, you know, the Republicans and Democrats and this whatever conservatives and, you know, whatever parties they have in other countries as well, like there's very few things that we agree on, but for whatever reason around the world, the one thing that parties and consumers have been agreeing on or been pushing, both
tech.
Political parties is to control tech, right?
Yep,
there is
tech.
this.
Yep.
There is
Absolutely.
there is this general sentiment just in general that, you know, basically what tech is doing is they're recognized. Number one, they have all the data, right? They have all the connections with all the big businesses. They see all the trends. They're able to get in front of trends. They're able to invest in them and basically end competition before it ever begins in certain industries. And you see the same companies over and over and over when something's getting big, they're jumping in kind of on the front end of it. And so what like government's been sort of asked to do, like in multiple countries, US, UK, is to basically do their jobs and to try to control this a little bit so that they don't have 5 companies splitting the entire world.
Could you imagine like any self-respecting regulator seeing the biggest company in the world buying the biggest gaming publisher in the world and just be like, oh, rubber stamp.
And then you look at it, he goes, that's kind of odd, but I'll allow it. And then you go back to your coffee.
And that goes to the point, right?
How do you turn around and fight Facebook on real issues if you just rubber stamp this? Because Facebook lawyers are going to be like, you just let that go through. Why are you looking at us?
Right, and that's kind of the point.
Let's be real about it here, though. And to that Facebook point, and I will let you continue, OBM. Am I wrong in my assertion that in America, Facebook, in America, the FTC dislikes Facebook as much as the CMA dislikes Microsoft in the UK?
Well, I would say Microsoft, because
they have history too.
Yeah, I would say like worldwide, Microsoft's actually in a decent position. Like I was saying that analogy about being faster than the bear. Microsoft isn't really the target for a lot of the.
They just kind of get lumped in because they're part of big tech. Yes.
But here's the thing. These people, it's politics, right? These people are put in their positions, and they got to, just like anybody with any company, you got to kind of show you're doing your job. And if a $69 billion purchase is being made
passes through your fingers, and you don't make any kind of statement about it. You know,
by one of the biggest tech companies in the world, in an industry that's going through a major paradigm change with a lot, which is on the cutting edge of a lot of these technologies, right? Like if you don't take a second look at that, you're probably not doing your job. It doesn't matter if you think there's a great case. You just got to show that you're diving deep into these. And yeah, like a lot of that written argument was kind of weird. It felt like if you were going to write it, you probably could have come up with a better case than what you got there.
Pronouns.
Yeah. Well, it's like one of those things where a lot of times these politicians don't really understand these industries, so they'll get into that stuff. But in one sense, to me, it shows that maybe they don't have very much to go on the second leg. You have to come up with something to say that, hey, we are looking deeper into this. And really, I think the biggest play for like Sony right now, it isn't consoles. It's really trying to look at the subscriptions, right? It's trying to look at the new industries, the cloud, and try to prove the challenge they're going to have with this. And I think the reason why there really is, because you're trying to basically say, them being the first mover in this area, like to any scale, is going to equal them being a monopoly. And eventually, because what the CMA needs to do is make sure that they're protecting the consumer at the end of the day. And so like the only reason they got to make sure there's competition is to make sure that one company doesn't get full control and then basically can do whatever the heck they want and get limit the options and make things worse for consumers. You're going to struggle with that because as you kind of dive deeper into what's the trends here, the more the industry kind of favors Microsoft, which it is, it's pivoting that way. It does open it up for more companies to compete as platforms, as developers. I mean, we just see things. I mean, we're seeing the more you're lowering the walls, the more you're actually opening up competition. If Amazon would have bought EA last week, like that rumor went around, they'd immediately be Microsoft's probably number 2 biggest threat when going towards this next paradigm, whatever it is.
Absolutely.
So
yeah.
I do think it's legitimate that they got to ask the questions. The problem is like,
100%.
do they have any sort of case, kind of moving forward?
Yeah,
because
ultimately, it doesn't seem like Microsoft really has anything to worry about. It's just a question of would they have to go through the long process of explaining themselves, or would this just kind of slide? And it looks like they've always just going to go through the process of explaining themselves through the lawyers anyway.
Yeah, and the last thing I would say on that is I probably realistically Sony probably realizes what the landscape looks like. They're trying to do what any company in their position should be doing, is like get the best possible deal that they can.
They possibly can.
Get,
yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Get anything on paper. I number one, I don't think Microsoft wants to kill Sony anyways.
No, I don't think so. Yeah,
Sony would be like Obi-Wan. They'd be stronger in death than they would be alive, because Amazon or somebody a bigger tech company would scrape them up and pool both the brands and be a real threat to Microsoft, right? Microsoft does not want, I don't think they're out here looking to end Sony to Sega them.
Absolutely. I agree with that.
They want to stand them up as a
human
opponent
shield.
That they can control, right? Like,
yes,
this
they
is
want a human shield. See, look, they're bigger than us. Look at that.
It's like the
it's like doing. Yes.
What they want is like the Remember the old WWF when they would fight the nobodies on Sunday or Saturday to practice. We just want to have an opponent so we can practice our. No, I mean they want to have somebody standing up there so that they don't want to create that vacuum for an Amazon to get in. And at the end of the day,
they need someone who will not make them look like a monopoly.
Yeah.
Right. Well, and then the other aspect.
We'll point out the fact that they have all the money in the room. Like they need somebody to stand in front of them to do that.
There are still other players in the market. Let's not forget about all the other big buyers right now, right?
Yeah, no, there is, and the industry is basically set up right now that where you can get competition from anywhere, and you can create big, products from almost, we've seen like Among Us is like, what is that, like a teeny tiny team, and now that's just a massive operation.
Oh yeah.
You just
and that was out for a year and a half, and it did nothing, and then somebody discovered it, and it blew up. Like, it's amazing.
And then Roblox sold for $40 billion, which going back to our earlier Halo conversation, that's why I say look out for Forge. But
by the way, what a miss! Microsoft was there on the ground floor. They could have got Roblox.
Oh, they got Minecraft, so they did all right.
They don't need Roblox.
I'm not saying they need it, but when you could have had it. This is like the guy that
and
like
technically,
bought,
by the way, Everborn, technically in consoles they have Roblox. It's the only place you can play it on a console.
What I'm talking about, the money. This is like the guy that bought a pizza a decade ago for like 17,000 Bitcoin. You know what I'm saying?
True. Okay. But remember, the 30% that they get on console side still comes to Xbox because of that.
Yeah, but I think what the funny thing is like, I think right now, Microsoft doesn't need to take Call of Duty off of PS5. I don't think it benefits them. The real question isn't even the consoles. Consoles is like it's been stagnant for multiple generations, and it's going to start to shrink as streaming gets good enough for mainstream. We may never be primarily there, but the industry is kind of changing in terms of like it's growing, and a lot of the newer gamers that are coming want the convenience more than they want that performance, and that's just kind of the way that they're wired. And so the real exclusive for Microsoft, and really
new
the thing
gamers coming up are playing on mobile.
Yeah, well, that's the thing.
And the fact
don't see any of y'all consoles
on Candy Crush was hilarious to me.
Yep.
But go ahead.
Yeah. But the real exclusive is who's going to own it on their cloud and who's going to own it on their subscription. Like those are for the future. That is the exclusive that actually matters, not the console exclusive. So to me, this is almost like a sleight of hand saying, oh yeah, Sony, let's keep Call of Duty on the PlayStation so that we don't create a vacuum where you're going to fill it with one of your gas games, where we can keep our brand IP not just as strong as it's ever been, but growing. And we want to make it even stronger so that, 5 to 10 years, when more people start to access our apps on TVs and, you know, on the go and on mobile devices and things like that, that Call of Duty is as strong as it's ever been. And you're going to play a part in doing that and helping us actually build Game Pass for the future because of that. So it's like they're often, and then Sony's kind of like, I think, trying to like just call their, you know, like, hey, put this down in paper. It's going to help them. It's going to help their stock price. Just giving, you don't want uncertainty, right? Like as a big publicly traded corporation, uncertainty is the kind of the thing that's going to drive your stock down. So if you can get some things locked in there as Sony to kind of say, hey, we got this here for this generation. We bought us some time. That's going to help their stock price, because you saw their stock price dipped immediately when this deal was announced. So it's really, I think this is just them. There's a lot of posturing and a lot of grandstanding. At the end of the day, I think they kind of both want something similar. Like when it comes to, Microsoft just doesn't want to be, I think they don't want to have that in writing forever, because they don't
want to have anything in writing. They want the opportunity to make changes
want the leverage
as they see fit.
Right. Yeah. So they just don't, they want the leverage.
Okay. You want some conspiracy theory?
Oh, here we go.
What if these arguments are so laughable because they were already in bed with Microsoft and they knew Microsoft could slap these down easily, but it still makes them look like they're fiercely pushing back?
I don't know.
$70 billion, people get creative, is all I'm saying.
No, here's the thing: when these companies submit these things, they kind of they have an idea. They talk to people. They have connections. They all have their lobbyists.
Yeah, they all speak to each other. Yeah,
they pretty much have an idea what's going to happen by the time the Dog and Pony Show gets up there. They have a good idea.
Of course, that's why they had the Game Pass family plan ready, and
his
point
is that this is indeed the Dog and Pony Show.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I don't know. I don't know the details of politics like to that level to know whether this was just a
So I can tell you that the reason why I thought this was interesting, specifically how it was worded, the reason why I thought it was so interesting and all, and I could be wrong, right? But because of the way it's worded and it's making me think that, hey, maybe somebody like kind of copy pasted this, their issues here. Say what you will about that, but when you go to basically deliberate where Microsoft and Sony bring their lawyers and their arguments, you don't want any of this stuff on the docket if you're Sony, because ultimately it will be, not only will it be most of it will be found to be bunk, but then there's evidence that you are actually doing the things that you're accusing your competitor of
again, which would lead someone to believe that maybe this is the doing of someone who would want that stuff to come out. And who might that be?
It wouldn't be Sony.
Exactly.
Yeah, this isn't the best argument. That is, and I think that's the thing that was, listening.
I'm just saying this ultimately feels like it helps Microsoft close the deal.
Oh yeah, no, ultimately it does.
To slap this down.
To be fair, the Brazilian argument was just as weak. So
yeah, I mean,
but the reason the Brazilian argument didn't get as much smoke is because the Brazilian argument was written like Sony said, whereas the CMA argument is saying we think, rather than Sony said.
No, they said we've gotten information that says. So
true,
Sony says.
True. Basically,
yeah, and
Sony
again,
says.
Sony would be the only one to complain, so that's all they have to go off of for a complaint, and that's why it sounds like Sony wrote it. Because in Brazil, literally no one else complained.
If there is a Hail Mary, like if you listen to like any of the experts on it, if there's a Hail Mary, it is focusing on the subscription. Really,
which is where their argument is sound. Yeah,
which
sound
makes
as it can be.
Which makes this really odd, like when you even talk about console at all, it basically after Sony comes off of a more than 2-1 lead last generation in a region where they're still very strong in the UK.
Maybe 3-1 in the UK, right?
Yeah, it doesn't feel like this was the best. Like you really probably just want to pick that one thing and just talk about, maybe that is a subscription. But the problem with that too is, that's going to be a hard argument, right? Because you're basically driving down costs for consumers. And we've already seen in other industries, like we've seen with the TV subscriptions, that once somebody establishes that market, other people will jump in, and they've already done studies and surveys that prove that consumers will. Unlike with consoles, like when you have that sort of that closed ecosystem, it is more of a wall for a consumer, right? So consumers aren't willing to jump over as many walls, as many obstacles with subscriptions. When it comes to streaming, consumers will in the future will probably have multiple gaming subscriptions. That's when they've done the surveys, that's what they've been finding, and I think that's why you're seeing some of these other companies like who's buying up everything,
Embracer.
Embracer. I think that's why you're seeing them like buying everything.
You,
I think
you see an Embracer subscription service at some point.
I mean, or they're going to use it as a secondary market for themselves. Like there's going to be opportunities for a lot of other companies to come in, even if Microsoft is the first mover and establishes the market. So even that's going to be a hard sell. So yeah, but if you're going to sell something, that's the one you hit. You focus on that. You focus on the subscription. You focus on them, not the console. And so that makes that argument. To your point, it is weird. It is like why did you pick this to make your case? Like, I get making your case. You want to get the best thing here, but yeah, even focusing on console.
Because it's not only just making your case.
But
it's not just making your case. You want to make your case, but you also want to seem very much balls and strikes fair, right?
Yeah.
And in this instance, it's like they don't care about their perception as being.
Yeah, how does it hurt the consumer? Yeah, they never once talk about. They never go down that road. Yeah, like
it's always about Sony's marketplace in position and keeping it there. And I'm just like,
well, they also literally said in there, if you hurt competition with your closest rival, that is what leads to bad outcomes for the consumer.
Which is also
so it's
ridiculous
like you're saying,
because
if you hurt Sony, you're hurting the consumer.
Exactly, which is also ridiculous because that's kind of like saying, well, Sony can't be number 2 and you can't be number 1. God forbid, right? The deck chairs can switch and consumers will still have choice.
Maybe
the irony is. Oh, go ahead, Pixel. I'm sorry.
Maybe this was written before it had to be written before the price hike, right? Because actually providing a bad deal for their consumers in that region right now, right? Mm-hmm. So, I don't know. It's weird.
Yeah, it seems like somebody wasn't paying attention when they were writing that thing after the thing.
Well, and the interesting thing too is like they mention other, like when you start talking about PC, I mean, you're not competing with them on PC. You're not competing with them on mobile right now. The other companies are like Valve is their biggest competitor over on PC. So there's PC, competition. Yeah. So even if you like narrow it down, there's other competitors in these areas. And then when you kind of broaden it out, there's nothing stopping from, when you start going to the future, this what if scenario, there's nothing stopping Steam and Valve from becoming the next big platform, once everything goes,
Also nothing
cloud.
Stopping Sony from putting their big games so they could actually compete into their service.
Yeah.
That's true.
And they choose not to. But whenever these arguments are made, it's almost like Sony has no choice but to do what they're doing, and you guys need to adapt to their own. They're desperate, which is. And again, this is business. It works in their favor. They're doing what they can to try and succeed. I have no issues with that. I even have no issues with what Microsoft is doing because in certain instances they're also being like, what are you talking about, Call of Duty? We all know that it is a big deal. What I think is interesting is that, in general, some consumers are either falling in love with the story of Sony, the desperate one, or or other instances they don't see. We're missing the forest for the trees, basically.
There's one more thing, Keisati, that I'll say, and I think Everborn, you'll like where this one is going.
Oh, here we go.
This isn't checkers. This isn't even chess. This is multiple seasons of chess.
Would this be your conspiracy theory? Go ahead.
No, but I don't even know if this is a conspiracy theory. Both sides know there's going to be more. Satya Nadella's already said they're going to. He's already.
Sounds like I smell Sega talk. Let's go.
He's already.
The episode couldn't end without one. Go ahead.
He's already set the table. They're going to do more, and Sony knows they're going to do more. I think everybody pretty much knows that once this deal gets closed, Microsoft is. They've already. Told you. And every time Satya says they're going to do something, it's different than somebody else within the organization saying it, because anything that's under the billions, that doesn't start with in the B's, doesn't really even register to him. You know what I'm saying? So they're going to buy, and they're going to buy, they're going to continue to buy big. And so part of this too, you got to think about this as sort of like a setup for the future. Like this doesn't exist in a vacuum. This is sort of one step in what, and it's maybe one of the biggest steps, but there will be multiple steps in this. And so they probably want to position this that if they can get them to kind of go, okay, well, you're going to commit now to all these big IPs that are well known, you're not going to pull them away from us here. If this continues to go on, we want the same thing with Sega or whoever else comes next. So, and I think that's the other thing, Microsoft too, is also why they've been saying, oh, we'll do more Minecraft type deals, because they don't care. They're not afraid of the PS5. They want to load up. They want to load up IPs right now to have as much stuff as they can for the cloud and subscription in like the next paradigm.
And they also know that when they invoke Minecraft and Mojang, it alleviates some people's pressures and scares about, oh no, exclusives. Oh no, they're gonna steal it. As soon as they say Minecraft, people go, oh yeah, I know that thing. That's on everything. Oh, all right, yeah, sure.
One other thing to think is, if this deal clears, everything else sails through, unless it's like a Take-Two or an EA.
Yeah, unless it's something of another big,
after you do a $70 billion deal and they let it go through, spending $5 to $7 billion is just nothing.
It's table stakes. Yeah. Absolutely. So okay, we've had an awesome conversation about this. I want to make sure everybody gets their bars off before we end this show today. So, Pixelbit G, any final thoughts on where we are today? Do you see us coming back and deliberating in the future about another unforced error or some surprise, or oh my God, what happened? Or in your estimation, this is all par for the course? The next time you see this, we're going to see a roundtable discussion, maybe early 2023. Where do you fall? Do you think we're still in the middle of the up and down, or this is all for the show?
There are we haven't heard from China yet, so let's wait till we get some leaks out of China, because I'm sure that somebody there will have something crap to say too. I mean, but I still don't. I don't expect it to close anytime this year, not early next year. It'll expect it to close in June. Somewhere around E3,
as Microsoft said,
late in the process. And that's the thing, right? So people are saying like Microsoft is in a rush. They got 9 months. They are in no rush. They don't need to close Activision right now. They need to close it, not to lose money and lose stock value, but they don't need to close it immediately, right? They have games slated eventually in 2023 at some point.
Some people seem to think that the closure needs to happen soon, so Diablo and a few others can enter Game Pass or whatever. Microsoft is so beyond money; they don't care. 2026 is going to be a great year for them. They don't care.
Need the deal to close so that somebody like Sega doesn't get scooped up.
No, and I agree. I mean,
that's why I'm like on the edge.
That's why you wanted to close yesterday. So
exactly. They could take 2 years to close this. It wouldn't make a difference if they just went and had the stones to buy Sega. I'd be like, cool. I don't care. Go to court.
As somebody else who wants them to buy Sega, I hear you on that. You know what I'm saying? But it's I think for the larger publishers that they want to work with, like Sega, they'll just continue to deepen their relationship with them as they wait, right? So right now, the Sega relationship is crazy strong. I mean, we don't get enough of the console heads playing on PC, so we don't see what Sega's releasing on PC, right? That Total War game is a massive game for PC players, and not only did it go into Game Pass, but it went in Game Pass day one. Day one with all the content. You know what I'm saying? Yep. So, Microsoft will just continue to sharpen that relationship. And, they made a public showing of it, right? Us and Sega are buddies, right? Whatever, right? And we're seeing Sega content.
It's wonderful you bring that up. because I think before we end this episode, I need to call Mr. Everborn Judas to the carpet. So thank you so much, Pixelbit G.
We talked about this last week, but we can do it again.
We're talking about it again. and thank you guys so much for being here. We're rounding the bottom of the episode out. And we thank you so much for continuing to be in the chat and always contributing to the conversation. It's funny. Everborn Saga brought this to my attention. We talked about it on Wednesday show on Boom Show, but I want to bring y'all opinions in on this, and then we'll get to the outros and we'll get out of here. Everborn wants Sonic to be good, but he wants it to fail ultimately, so it leaves Sonic on their knees, ready for Big Daddy.
Sega on their knees, yes.
Sega. So it leaves room for Big Daddy. So to that, I say Everborn Judas. What do you think, Pixel?
This is a Machiavellian move to where if Sonic doesn't hit, that Sega might be in financial
Can you
straits.
People believe in this chat that I am more of a Sonic fan than Everborn Saga? Unbelievable.
Around the time when they would realize it didn't work financially, that's when they would be at their weakest point because they invested so much into
Born
it.
Saga.
And that is around the time when the Activision deal would close and then Microsoft would be primed to come in and scoop them up. So
he wants to sacrifice Sonic at the altar, just like a call to the lamb, just like throw him out there.
To score very high. I want it to be a return to form for Sonic. But if it doesn't do well financially, Sega will be in trouble.
He also wants it to be Titanfall 2.
Sega will be in trouble.
That's what he wants.
And Microsoft may have to swoop in and pick him up.
You don't need that.
Come on, OBM. Give him the last word. Everborn Judas. Give it to him. Last word. Go ahead.
Yeah, you don't need that.
If that happens, every one of you will be thanking me. You will be like, yes, this is ultimately what we wanted.
Indeed.
I'm the only one that has the courage of conviction to stand up for what we all want.
I would tell you, Everborn, that's not probably needed because Sonic's not a gas game. Whether it does well or doesn't do well, it's not going to probably change the value, I think, of Sega too much, or their confidence in terms of where they stand with the way the industry's changing. I would argue out of all the big publishers, they are probably the least positioned for like this future because they don't have a really big live service. They don't have a cash cow, I guess, right, in the live service area.
How well is Phantasy Star doing?
Pretty well. I don't think it's not killing numbers, but it's got a core group.
It's got a group, but it's not a cash cow. It's not Final Fantasy Online. It's not even Monster Hunter. At least Capcom has that, and they have other games that keep hitting pretty big. But all the other big publishers have things that, either, massive IPs that they know are going to just do jillions every time, or they have a gas game, and Sega doesn't. So that is, I think Sega is like conspiracy theory. I think that could be a really, really good fit for Microsoft next, because they do have PC studios and Japanese studios, and they don't have a really good place. There's a reason why they keep talking about this super game or big game. I think they know they need to do something big and create some sort of something bigger than a game just selling. Whether Sonic sells 1 million more or less than projected doesn't change them that much. So I would tell you that you don't need to root for that. You don't need to root for that.
Let me give you a quick bit of data. While you asked that question, I did a quick search. On average, they're averaging around 15,000 subscribers, players on average right now, and that was pulled in March of 2021. Between then and now, March 2021 to May right now. And also, let's see, as recently as June 2022, they increased about 26.72% as far as average player count, about 600 to 700 players. But as recently as the last 30 days, they've lost about 8% of player base. So is it terrible? No. Is it burning the world? No, but it's enough to keep going for now.
Yeah, it's not Final Fantasy.
No, definitely not. There are very few Final Fantasies, and it's definitely not one of them. Yes, indeed, indeed. But okay, I guess we'll round out the bottom of this episode. We'll get into our outros. This has been an awesome conversation. I think the pro tip on all this is wait and see. Right, in all aspects of Microsoft's business and gaming and otherwise, it's all wait and see. Both in Halo and all the others, whether we like it or not, we're finding ourselves having to wait and see more often than we want. And many gamers and many followers of this industry are just kind of tired of it at this point. No more wait and see. We want to see what happens, or we want you to get in the bushes, as the Iron Lords would say. So I have a feeling this is a conversation you will see this panel have once again in the near future. Maybe when Forge comes out and saves Halo. Let's move quickly on. See, because that's another thing. Some people think there's no way Forge is going to save Halo, but that's neither here nor there. That's a conversation for another day. But Mr. One Bad Mutha, I am so thrilled and so happy that you decided to join us, to sacrifice your morning rest to get all verklempt and crazy and discuss the inner workings of 343 drama and the continued twists and turns of the ABK deal. Thank you so much, good sir. Tell the fine people where they can find you this week, all your work with Xbox Era. Where you got anything new coming up that you want people to pay attention to?
Well, first of all, Keisante, thank you so much. It is always great to come here and talk to you guys. I have fun talking with you guys, whether we're on a podcast or if we were just chatting offline.
Yeah.
Like these are always, I know we're always going to have fun things to talk about. Always going to have an Everborn conspiracy that we have to break down. We're always going to get to talk at least one, probably it's got, by now it's got to be a Gaming Circle bingo card that talk about a Sega acquisition. So you're welcome.
Work on that. The Gaming Circle, like shot glass, like take a drink. Wow. Okay.
Everborn conspiracy, Sega purchase. We gotta get that bingo card going.
Indeed. Yes.
But yeah, man, thank you so much, you guys, for having me. Yes, I did have to wake up a little earlier than I wanted to, but it was worth it. You guys are a lot of fun. And if anybody wants to find me, first you can find me on my Twitter. My handle is well, you can see it on the screen there. It's at Mutha, MUTHA_ONE. Also, I do stuff with Xbox Era. I've been doing stuff behind the scenes lately, project. So I haven't been putting out as much content, but that will be coming soon. And I will
waiting for my Xbox book, man. I'm waiting for that Xbox book. I got an update recently. I was excited.
Yeah. So that is the thing. That's taking a lot. So, and then also I will be on the Xbox Era podcast tonight. So at 6 Eastern time,
awesome
whatever
podcast.
that is.
Always love catching that show. It's great.
So come and join us as we get into the shenanigans again there tonight. But yeah, thank you very much, guys.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. And of course, all of his information will be in the show notes. I'll make sure I put all the details there. If you're not checking out his work and just Xbox Era in general, you're doing it wrong. As Mr. Boomstick likes to say, always great content there. Always very, very fair and very balanced. I always enjoy the content that they put out. But Mr. Pixelbit G, Darth Pixel, what's going on, man? I appreciate you for being here as usual. Every time you jump on the show, whether it's in the chat or you're on the show, you always make the show so much better. Why don't you tell the fine people where they can find you in case they want to get, verbally smacked down for some ridiculous takes that they're doing on Twitter? Where can they find you, sir?
You can find me on Twitter under Darth PBG this week because Halo pissed me off. I'm returning to the dark side.
Darth PBG, baby.
but it's always a pleasure being on the show with you, Keisante and Everborn. And this is, I think, the second time I've been with you, OBM. So, as usual, you're very insightful, man. So it's a pleasure working with you guys.
Same, man.
Other than that, you guys will see me in chat having a lot to say, or you'll see me on Twitter getting at somebody's neck. But other than that,
indeed.
Great show, guys. And like I said, I really appreciate it. All right.
Thank you. Always welcome here. Always. You guys basically have that skeleton key. Whenever y'all feel like it, you just let me know, and you're always here. You always make the show so much better when you're on. So once again, always appreciate you guys contributing to the show. Mr. Everborn Judas Developer. What are you doing this week, sir? Are we going to see anything new from you? I've seen some new assets you've been putting out there on Twitter regarding the game you're building.
Yeah, we just
what's going on?
So things have been moving along slow on the animation side. And we got a guy that's working on it, kind of not full time, but he works on it 2 full days a week. So we're doing a lot of setup to set up the rigs for so that we can do the animations. And we finally got the Karma, the main character, set up. It's in Spine, so the animations are going to start coming out soon. And when those animations start coming out, I can start coding around it. Because if you're into fighting games and combat, you know that a lot of combo systems and attack systems are kind of frame based, and it's been hard to work with the basic sprite sheets that we're using now, since those won't be final. So you'll see as you play upcoming builds that the combat is going to get a lot smoother once we get these rigs into the game. So it's slow and steady as she goes. We are doing a lot of asset creation now. So we are basically sketching out all of the overworld for the level select, and then we're getting basic concept designs for the main levels as you play them. And we're doing poses for the main character. So, you have your wind pose, your entrance pose, your taunt, things like that. So everybody's kind of working in their silos, because there's one environment artist, there's one character artist, and then there's one animator, and they're all kind of doing their thing while I'm doing the coding. And right now I'm in a little bit of a holding pattern because I need assets in for me to start coding behind those, and then we'll move forward. So things are moving along, just no new gameplay to show because I'm waiting on assets.
Understood. But hey, people can follow Mr. Everborn Saga on the Everborn Saga Twitter channel.
That right there
some really cool stuff.
Is a flat. It's going to be toned and everything, and it'll have weights, and the clothes will move with the wind and things like that separately. So this is the basic design that's in there. So you see those are the bones, and you basically attach skins to it. So the boot is attached to that red and blue bone at the bottom. So you move the bone, and it gives the appearance of moving, so you don't have to use a whole sprite sheet. This is what we're doing. So you'll see the clothes kind of bounce with when in the idle pose, and then you can do things a lot. You can see the hair move and do a lot of that stuff when you do the attacks. So
yes, sir. Very exciting stuff. I really appreciate when you go behind the curtain and show more of this stuff, and educate folks. This is always awesome. I want to see more of this from you. As soon as that you get ready on your channel to do it, please let us promote. Let more folks get involved. This is great.
Just one last thing I'll say here. The reason to do this instead of the hand drawing every frame is because your asset uplift is way lower, right? So if I'm drawing it frame by frame, I have to move the arms and legs in each frame.
Every frame.
I have to redraw the
that
character
is
every time.
A lot more. What do you call it? Storage size as well.
Right, but this is more on the processing side because I'm just moving those bones, and again, the skins are attached to the bone, so you get that movement, and you only have to draw when a position changes. Meaning, if she opens her mouth, then I have to add a new frame. If she opens her hand, then I have to do a new frame.
It's like a way of kind of cutting corners a little bit here and there. That's interesting. Okay.
And this also allows you to change the character's clothes without completely redrawing them.
Without redrawing the character. Interesting. This is the kind of interesting stuff you get when we finally start getting some more on live development from the Everborn Saga channel. So stay tuned, keep an eye out. Very interesting stuff. I really love digging through all this stuff. Ultimately, it'll be a game that the community will get a chance to possibly pick up and play, and that is really awesome. So, again, I appreciate your work here, sir. Check out the Everborn Saga channel. Check out the Everborn Saga website where you can actually get the books, read up on the characters. So when the game comes out, you know who you're dealing with. Maybe you'll see some moves that you're familiar with some of the comics that's available for you as well. So it's always good to support this man, support the community, and we'll keep this stuff moving forward. So
Charge Them More T-shirt. Every dollar,
yes.
100% of the proceeds go towards the development of the Redlands game.
Oh, I was about to say 100% of the proceeds go to Everborn Saga, creating more conspiracy theories. You know, it takes a long time and it's hard work putting together such conspiracy theories. Please pay this man to give you more entertainment in that respect. But okay. All right, so it's been great having this conversation with all you guys. For myself, OBM, Everborn Saga, and Pixelbit G, I say thank you guys, all the folks in the chat, the people going to be watching this after the fact, and the people listening to this on all the podcasting services. I do my best to get them up there, usually early on a Monday, if Anchor is working with me. So hopefully you guys will get a chance to listen to this. This one will most likely be branded rated R, so it won't be one of the PG-13 episodes because I allowed for a few slip ups here and there. 343 does that to you. You know what are you gonna do? But all right, I will let y'all go. Have a great weekend. Catch me on the Game On Daily, going live at 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. If you happen to be listening, available to watch a podcast, I am going to be busy all weekend, clearly in podcast land, but. Until next week, it was a great episode, and we will talk to y'all again. Have a good weekend.